Chapter 622. Yin Chuan looked at Lu Gang and said, Lu Gang, what are your plans? King of Hell, my master knows that he was in the wrong this time and has already returned with a large number of disciples. I have already obtained my master's permission to bring a group of brothers here. I am willing to serve King of Hell. I only hope that King of Hell will not despise my poor constitution. Lu Gang said cautiously. Yin Chuan stared at Lu Gang, the past information flashing through his mind. Lu Gang did not dare to speak and waited respectfully for Yin Chuan. After looking for a while, Yin Chuan nodded and smiled. Constitution? As long as you really make contributions, there will be a large amount of resources allocated to you. Since that is the case, follow me for the time being. Me? Yin Chuan only said this to two types of people. One was his enemies, and the other was his subjects. Yin Chuan said me to Lu Gang, indicating that he had already acknowledged Lu Gang. Thank you, my king, Lu Gang immediately said excitedly. Hua Guang, go prepare the troops. The others, follow me back to Yinjing. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Yes. Yinjing, outside the palace. The morning fog was thick. Visibility was extremely low. A large number of guards were stationed at the palace gates. Even though the fog was thick, they still scrupulously observed their duties. Suddenly, a dozen figures walked over from afar. How dare you? Who are you? How dare you barge into the palace? A guard shouted angrily. Ka ka ka. One by one, they pointed their spears at the approaching people. When the person approached, the leading guard's expression suddenly changed. Emperor equal to the emperor? The guard exclaimed. Greetings, Emperor equal to the emperor. The guard leader bowed respectfully. Greetings, Emperor equal to the emperor. All the guards knelt down. Go inform Yin Chuyu. Tell him that I am waiting for him in the imperial court, Yin Chuan said lightly. With that, Yin Chuan walked towards the inner part of the imperial city. A group of guards reached out to stop him, but after thinking about it, no one made a move. Yes, the guard replied respectfully. Also, have Yin Chuyu informed the officials of the Yin state to come to the imperial court for a court meeting. Yin Chuan suddenly turned his head and said calmly, Yes. The guard replied respectfully. Yin Chuan led Yifeng, Qing Long, and some other generals through the imperial city. With Yin Chuan's status and prestige, none of the guards dared to stop them. Beijing drill ground. Yin Chuyu held a staff in her hand and was surrounded by about 100 soldiers. Boom! Yin Chuyu shattered several stone slabs with a stomp and swung her staff at the soldiers. Roar! A group of soldiers rushed over. Boom! 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 After a series of attacks, hundreds of soldiers fell to the ground. Yin Chuyu, who was standing in the center of the soldiers, couldn't hide the excitement on her face. Essence Realm. Ha! We have also reached the Essence Realm, Yin Chuyu shouted excitedly. Congratulations, Your Majesty, for reaching the Essence Realm. You have become an immortal cultivator. The soldiers congratulated her. Yin Chuyu nodded in satisfaction. Her eyes shone brightly, as if she was thinking about the future, about her immortality. At that moment, the guard from before rushed over. Your Majesty, the Emperor Equal is back, the guard said respectfully. Yin Chuyu raised her eyebrows. The Emperor Equal said that he is waiting for Your Majesty in the imperial court. Also, Your Majesty, please gather the officials for a court meeting. The guard said respectfully. He is back? This day has finally come. Yin Chuyu frowned, and her face darkened. The surrounding soldiers didn't dare to say anything and waited for Yin Chuyu to make a decision. Yin Chuyu took a deep breath and suppressed all the thoughts in her mind. She said in a deep voice, change clothes and inform the officials for a court meeting. Yes. An old eunuch beside her nodded. Chapter 623. Yin State's Imperial Hall. Outside the hall, Yin Chuyu rushed over with a group of guards. However, when they reached the hall's entrance, they realized that the guards had all retreated. Your Majesty, the Emperor Equals is in the hall. He asked us to leave. One of the guards stepped forward and reported. Yin Chuyu looked at the hall and frowned. She nodded. All of you wait outside. When the officials arrive, wait outside. Yin Shuyu took a deep breath and ordered, "Yes." All the guards nodded. Alone, Yin Shuyu walked towards the royal court hall and entered it. Once she entered the hall, Yin Shuyu raised her eyebrows. In the hall, Yifeng and a dozen others stood respectfully on both sides of the hall. Yin Chuan was sitting on his dragon throne. On the armrest, a little cat was walking around. Yin Chuan seemed to be sitting on the throne, playing with the little cat. "Waiting for me? Dragon throne? Is that the throne that belongs to me?" Yin Shuyu felt an inexplicable anger in her heart. On the throne, Yin Chuan also noticed Yin Shuyu and turned to look at her. "Emperor equals." Yin Shuyu took a deep breath and suppressed the anger in her heart. She took a step forward and said, "Essence State? Yin Shuyu, congratulations." Yin Chuan smiled faintly. Yin Shuyu walked forward. In the hall, no one said a word. "You're back? What's your plan?" Yin Shuyu asked in a low voice. Looking at Yin Shuyu's expression, Yin Chuan naturally understood her state of mind. Who would be willing to give up the throne as an emperor? Even in front of immortality, there would be worries. However, this time he had to settle everything properly. "I'm back. It's time for me to take back my things," Yin Chuan said indifferently. I heard that you're the peak master of the Day sect. It's only a matter of time before you become a sect master." "Why? Why do you want to inherit the Yin state?" Yin Shuyu frowned. Yin Chuan looked at Yin Shuyu and said indifferently, "Why? I can't inherit the Yin state?" Yin Shuyu's face stiffened. She shook her head and said, "That's not what I meant. I just don't understand why you would give up such a great path to immortality." "Great immortal path? Haha, I don't need you to teach me my path. Yin Shuyu, it's time to fulfill your promise. The Yin state belongs to my father. It's only right that we take it back. Also, you promised me that day. That's why I used a lot of resources to help you reach the Essence Realm, and then the Qi Realm." Yin Chuan took a deep breath. Yin Shuyu had a complicated expression on her face. "All right." Yin Shuyu took a deep breath and nodded. Although she was struggling in her heart, Yin Shuyu wanted longevity more than anything else. Yin Chuan nodded. "I have already ordered someone to write the declaration of abdication. Just stamp it with your seal and announce it to the entire Yin state." Lu Jin immediately took out an imperial edict from the Yin state. Everything was written on it. "Hand it over." Yin Shuyu frowned as she looked at the imperial edict. She looked at Yin Chuan and sighed in her heart. The imperial seal was placed on the dragon table. Yin Shuyu picked it up, dipped it in ink, and looked at the imperial edict. She was reluctant and unwilling, but she stamped it. Dong! The imperial edict took effect as soon as the seal was stamped. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and stood up. He said solemnly, "Yin Shuyu, the Yin state won't be able to unleash much of its power in your hands. It will only be able to unleash its power in my hands. Apart from the Yin state, Zheng state in the south and Zhao state in the east will soon become my territory." "Ah?" Yin Shuyu was shocked. "Zheng state? Zhao state?" Chapter 624. You are a descendant of the Yin clan. When I establish the country, I will confer you a title. Yin Chuan promised solemnly. Yin Shuyu nodded. After chatting for a while, they allowed the officials to enter the hall. As soon as the officials entered the hall, they were greeted by a surprising sight. The one sitting on the throne was not Yin Shuyu. "How dare you?" one of the officials exclaimed. "Emperor equal to the emperor, Your Majesty?" The officials were thrown into chaos. Yin Shuyu took a step forward and said solemnly, "Everyone, from today onwards, don't call me Your Majesty." "Ah!" The officials were surprised. "Emperor equal to the emperor, who has both integrity and talent, surpasses me. From today onwards, announce to the world that I will abdicate the throne to Yin Chuan." Yin Shuyu said solemnly. "What? No. Abdicate? How can you treat a matter of national importance like this?" "Your Majesty? No." The group of old officials exclaimed in shock. However, nearly half of the civil and military officials suddenly bowed to Yin Chuan. "Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor!" Half of the officials suddenly bowed to Yin Chuan. At the side, Yifeng smiled faintly. Many of the people here were actually Yi Feng's students. Before Yin Chuan went to the cultivation world, he had already made arrangements. Naturally, Yi Feng had made arrangements long ago. Bastard, Minister of Rights, you? Minister of Works? You actually? The officials looked at the officials bowing to Yin Chuan in shock and anger. As for Yin Shuyu, when she saw nearly half of the officials bowing to Yin Chuan, she understood everything and smiled bitterly. At this point, the news of Yin Emperor's abdication spread to all the cities in the world. The people of the Great Yin were confused. However, comparatively speaking, the prestige of the emperor equal to the emperor was even higher. It had protected the Great Yin state for 300 years, and a few years ago, it had displayed its prowess by defeating 5 dynasties. 3,000 soldiers of the Embroidered Cloak Army had marched straight into the capital of 3 dynasties and wiped them out. Since then, the territory of Yin state had been expanding. Although there were a few objections from all sides, Yi Feng had already made arrangements. Everything was proceeding in an orderly manner. The ruler of the Yin state was now Yin Chuan. Zheng. Lu Gang landed in the Zheng Imperial Palace with 30 cultivators. All of King Wild's descendants glared at Lu Gang. This is Master's order. Why aren't you following it? Lu Gang said solemnly. The Zheng Emperor looked at Lu Gang with a complicated expression. Emperor Zheng, you will know Master's plans in the future. Let go. The state of Zheng cannot exist anymore. Lu Gang shook his head and advised. Why did Ancestor give such an order? The entire Zheng state surrendered to the Yin state? Why? The Zheng Emperor was indignant. Not the Yin state, but the Emperor equal to the Yin state, Yin Chuan. Lu Gang corrected. The Zheng Emperor's expression was ugly. The princes behind him also glared at Lu Gang. Lu Gang ignored their gazes and looked at the Zheng Emperor. Emperor Zheng, you are all Master's descendants. I don't want to use other methods, but if you insist on pestering me, I will not show mercy. Make your decision, Lu Gang said coldly. The Zheng Emperor looked at Lu Gang with a bitter smile. Your Majesty, please don't. Father, please don't. Everyone was indignant, but the Zheng Emperor took a few deep breaths and nodded. All right, I agree. Chapter 6:25. Thank you. Emperor Zheng, Lu Gang said. But what about the royal bloodline? Emperor Zheng asked. Haha, don't worry, Emperor Zheng. I've already discussed this with my master. All the royal descendants will move to the demon-controlling sect and receive guidance from the Immortal sect. This will help all of you embark on the path of immortality. Lu Gang smiled. Ah, really? Immortal cultivation? Our ancestor is finally willing to let us go. The anger of the royal descendants dissipated. Their eyes were filled with longing. Of course. Lu Gang nodded and smiled. Only Emperor Zheng knew that cultivation was not that easy. Zhao country. The Zhao family, a large family in Yin state, had betrayed the Yin state and established a country in the east of the Yin state. The head of the Zhao family, Zhao Tianwang, he was standing in front of the court. 100,000 soldiers from Zhao country were gathered around the palace, protecting it. Opposite them was Zhu Jiansheng, the former head of the Day sect. Zhu Jiansheng led 10,000 soldiers and looked coldly at the palace. Zhu Jiansheng's army was not an ordinary army. Even the weakest of them was in the Essence realm. General Zhang, I'm in the 2nd Legion. These 10,000 soldiers belong to Hua Guang's 1st Legion. Although there are 2 legions, they both work for the Emperor. This time, Zhu Jiansheng said, don't worry. I know what to do. Tell me, what should we do? General Zhang said politely. Lord Yi has already arranged for disciples to be stationed in the various cities of the state of Zhao. As long as the Zhao family is destroyed, Lord Yi will be able to quickly gather the various cities and destroy the Zhao family. Zhou Jiansheng said gravely. Okay. General Zhang nodded. In the palace, Zhao Tianwang looked anxious. I'm Shin Kuan Kuroa's disciple from the Great Winged Heaven School. Who dares to come here? Zhao Tianwang shouted angrily. Oh! Zhu Jiansheng's eyes lit up. General Zhang, capture him alive, Zhu Jiansheng said with a smile. Okay. General Zhang nodded. With a wave of his hand, The 10,000-strong army roared and charged toward the imperial palace with their spears raised. Kill! The state of Zhao had 100,000 soldiers. Although there were many of them, how could they compare to the first legion that was armed with magical weapons? Kill! Today, the state of Zhao will be erased from this world. Beijing. At this moment, earth-shattering changes were taking place. After Yin Emperor abdicated the throne, the lord of the imperial palace naturally became Yin Chuan. With Yin Chuan's order, the imperial palace underwent major changes. Many places were razed to the ground, and large-scale construction was carried out to build a vast imperial city. As for the people in Beijing, they were being moved out of Beijing. A large number of cultivators were building more suitable places for them to live. Although the people had some complaints, when they saw that the deities were helping to build houses, and the houses were much more beautiful and grand than before, they gradually felt relieved. Of course, more importantly, after Yin Chuan took control of the Yin state, he distributed a large number of cultivation techniques. Any one of these techniques was enough to make the Jianghu go crazy in the past. But now, they were like cabbages growing in large swathes. The path of immortal cultivation? Yin Chuan had brought the path of immortal cultivation to the Yin state. At this moment, no one had any complaints, and everyone was grateful. As the construction of the imperial palace was going on, Yin Chuan brought Yifeng, Qing Long, and Yifeng's grandson, Yilin to a high place and looked at the grand scene in front of them. Your Majesty, when Feng Yinyang was living in Beijing, there were continuous roars around the city, as if there was an earthquake, but we still can't find his location. Yilin said respectfully, "That's the dragon vein of the earth. Feng Yinyang is from the Gale Navy. He followed my request and attracted at least 100 dragon veins from all directions. After a while, on the 9th day of the 9th lunar month, the 100 Dragons Pilgrimage, this Feng Shui array will be displayed in front of everyone." Yin Chuan nodded. "Qing Long, according to what you know, what about the Great Winged Heaven School?" Yin Chuan asked. Qing Long thought for a while and said, "The Great Winged Heaven School is east of here, east of the sea. It's a middle-level sect with 100 lower-level sects under it. It was strong in the past, but in Shinkuin Kuroha's generation, it has declined." "Oh." The world is divided into 5 continents: East Divine Continent, South Divine Continent, West Divine Continent, North Divine Continent, and Middle Divine Continent. We live in the East Divine Continent, and there's only one upper-level sect there, the Great Sacred Ground. Then there are 24 middle-level sections. The Great Winged Heaven School is ranked last among the 24 middle-level sects. Qing Long said. "Last?" Yin Chuan said in a low voice. "Yes, at the very bottom. But even at the very bottom, it's not something that a lower-level sect can compare to." Azure Dragon nodded. Chapter 626. Qing Long nodded. "Yes, at the very bottom. But even at the very bottom, it's not something that a lower-level sect can compare with." Yin Chuan nodded. Yifeng took a deep breath and said, "Your Majesty, the founding of the country is imminent. I am worried that the Great Winged Heaven School will cause trouble during this period of time." "Don't worry. There are a lot of arrays around Yin Chuan. Nothing serious will happen. But after the founding of the country," Yin Chuan's eyes turned cold. "After the founding of the country? Wang Yao wants to send troops to the Great Winged Heaven School?" Yifeng's expression changed. "That's right. A middle-level sect and 100 lower-level sects besiege the Day sect and force my parents to their deaths. This hatred must be avenged. Moreover, in order to take root here as soon as possible, we must quickly annihilate these 100 sects in one fell swoop. That's the only way to intimidate the rascals." Yin Chuan said solemnly. "Yes." Yifeng nodded. "What? Prince Yin, you want to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School and numerous sects? How is this possible? There are more than 100,000 disciples in the Great Winged Heaven School, and there are hundreds of thousands of disciples in the 100 sects. Furthermore, all of them have high cultivation bases. How is it possible for you?" Qing Long said in surprise. The power of a middle-level sect was extremely terrifying. How could a newly established country compare to a middle-level sect? Hundreds of thousands? My army is larger than his. Isn't that enough? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Qing Long was puzzled. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, the First Legion has 100,000 soldiers. I had Huoguang take 60,000 to encircle the 10 great sects. Another 40,000 soldiers, 10,000 to guard Worry-Free City, 10,000 to guard the former Day sect, 10,000 to follow Zhu Jiansheng to exterminate the state of Zhao, and they will return soon. The last 10,000 will be handed over to you, Yifeng. In the remaining time, Qing Long will bring you around the various major cities. The major cities? What for? Qing Long was puzzled. Recruiting? Yin Chuan laughed. Ah, another mercenary? Qing Long's expression suddenly changed. That's right. My celestial empire is a place where all rivers flow into the sea. When nurturing our own talents, we will also need to take in the experts from all directions. Yifeng, I will have to trouble you from now on. Screening the soldiers will be a complicated process. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and looked at Yifeng. Your Majesty, don't worry. However, how many soldiers do you need? Yifeng asked. 1,000,000-strong army. Yin Chuan took a deep breath. 1,000,000? Qing Long exclaimed. Prince Yin, are you sure about the 1,000,000-man army? Qing Long sucked in a deep breath. How many spirit stones would it take to support a 1,000,000-strong army? Spirit stones? Didn't Huoguang go to collect them? Yin Chuan laughed. Ah, with a 1,000,000-strong army, wouldn't there be more spirit stones to destroy the great winged heaven school? Yin Chuan laughed. Ah? Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, also, during this trip, remember to announce the founding of my empire to everyone. 1 month later, Yinjing. The citizens of Yinjing moved out, and the surrounding areas were filled with construction. The imperial palace was built by the cultivators of Carefree City, and huge palaces quickly appeared. In front of the largest palace in the imperial palace, Yin Chuan watched as a large number of cultivators retreated, and a dazzling golden palace hall appeared. The palace was 100 feet tall, and it was the largest palace in Yinjing. Yin Chuan stood in front of the palace with Lu Gang and looked at the majestic palace. What a huge palace! Your Majesty, is this the future imperial palace? Lu Gang exclaimed. That's right. Yin Chuan nodded. What is the name of this palace? Lu Gang asked. At this moment, several soldiers came over carrying a huge signboard. On the plaque, there were 3 large golden words that radiated in all directions. Chapter 6:27. The 3 words contained an aura that could swallow mountains and rivers. Looking at it from afar, it was intimidating. Sky-facing hall. Lu Gang took a deep breath and recited. This is the king's calligraphy? Lu Gang exclaimed. And Yin Chuan nodded. The king's calligraphy is invincible. Lu Gang praised. Yin Chuan smiled faintly as he watched the soldiers hang up the plaque in the hall. Lu Gang, Yin Chuan called out. This subject is here. Lu Gang replied respectfully. Do you know about Yifeng's trip? Yin Chuan asked. This subject knows. He is going to recruit soldiers for the king. Lu Gang nodded. What do you think? Yin Chuan asked. Lord Huoguang, the First Legion has 100,000 soldiers, and they have been working together for many years. Furthermore, they are all cultivators from Carefree City, and we know them well. However, great scholar Yifeng is going to recruit 1,000,000 soldiers. This subject is worried that it will be difficult for them to be loyal to the king in a short period of time. Lu Gang said solemnly. That's right. It's not just the 1,000,000-strong army, but also the officials. In fact, many people will join our dynasty in the upcoming imperial examinations. I can give them power, but there might be spies from the sects. Yin Chuan said solemnly. Yes. Does the king have any plans? Lu Gang asked curiously. We plan to set up a factory. Yin Chuan said. Factory? It will only be responsible to us. It will monitor the officials internally and the world externally. Yin Chuan said coldly. Lu Gang was suddenly enlightened. In an instant, he understood the factory that Yin Chuan had mentioned. Supervising the officials? Monitor the world? This was a special organization and also an intelligence organization. Lu Gang's heart started to beat rapidly. Why did the king say this to him? It will be called Eastern Intelligence Bureau. We want you to take up the position of governor. Yin Chuan said. Dong. Lu Gang immediately knelt down and said excitedly, Rest assured, Your Majesty. I will do my best to repay Your Majesty's favor in the Eastern Intelligence Bureau. Go and prepare the Eastern Factory. Don't disappoint us. Yin Chuan said indifferently. Yes. Lu Gang retreated with great excitement. Yin Chuan was left alone to look at the grandest palace, the heaven-facing hall. At the edge of the Eastern Sea, at a place where countless practitioners gathered. In a palace, the former Arhat of the Day sect and the traitor of the Day sect, Jiang Nan, respectfully bowed to a middle-aged man sitting on a futon. The middle-aged man was wearing a kasaya and a lotus hat. His face was fair and clean, and his eyes were open with a hint of benevolence. Master, Arhat frowned at the middle-aged man. Junior Jiang Nan greets the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Jiang Nan said respectfully. Bodhisattva, great wisdom, looked at the two of them. Sword spirit? Yin Chuan obtained a treasure sword? Great wisdom Bodhisattva calmly asked. Yes. Arhat said respectfully. Master, Yin Chuan is back. Should we? That Arhat frowned. Great wisdom Bodhisattva closed his eyes and thought for a while. He shook his head and said, Wait a while more. Since you didn't complete the task, it seems that Yin Chuan is different from what we imagined. Get someone to investigate Yin Chuan's recent situation. Also, find out where Yin Chuan has been all these years. Yes, that Arhat said respectfully. Another 2 months passed. It was still the same hall. Great wisdom Bodhisattva and his disciple, Jiang Nan and Xin Kuan stood in the hall. Jiang Nan? You are really lucky to be able to worship the great wisdom Bodhisattva? Xin Kuan smiled at Jiang Nan. Chapter 6:28. It's all thanks to Master's generosity that I have the chance to listen to Master's teachings. Jiang Nan immediately said with a smile. Xin Kuan nodded and turned to look at the Bodhisattva of wisdom. Esteemed envoy, have you seen the news about Yin Chuan? Xin Kuan took a deep breath. The Bodhisattva of wisdom looked at Xin Kuan and smiled. Xin Kuan is too polite. You could just call me Wisdom. How can that be? You were sent by His Majesty. So of course you're the esteemed envoy. Xin Kuan said politely. All right. The Bodhisattva of wisdom nodded. Yin Chuan shone brightly at the Julu Academy's Heavenly Bestowal Conference. Who would have thought that in just a few years Yin Chuan would have grown to? Sigh, if I had known, I would have eliminated him. Xin Kuan said in a deep voice. I'm also very surprised that Yin Chuan has grown to this extent, but the so-called resistance against Mohina Dojin is a joke. Golden Dragon of Destiny? Ha! Looks like Kong Susu passed down the news, and even passed it on to her son. The Bodhisattva of wisdom took a deep breath. Golden Dragon of Destiny? Esteemed envoy. Even His Majesty knows it? Xin Kuan said in surprise. Looking at Xin Kuan, the Bodhisattva of wisdom nodded. That's right. In the Kong family's archives, His Majesty found an incomplete book called Building the Heavenly Court. It recorded the method to build an immortal kingdom. For this, His Majesty had already built a Buddhist kingdom in the West. Kong Susu had seen it before and thought that it was over since Kong Susu had died. Who would have thought that she had actually left behind a record and allowed Yin Chuan to obtain it? Yin Chuan wants to build an immortal kingdom. Xin Kuan's expression changed. Didn't you already know? The Bodhisattva of wisdom said indifferently. I knew. When the news came from the West, I thought that Yin Chuan had gone mad. Build an empire? Build a mortal kingdom? So it's the celestial nation. Xin Kuan was slightly surprised. Xin Kuan took a deep breath and said, Esteemed envoy, I will send someone to kill Yin Chuan right away. Oh, who are you sending? Great wisdom, Bodhisattva laughed. Xin Kuan smiled bitterly and said, Alas, my great winged heaven school still has 2 middle void stage elders. Unfortunately, they don't really listen to my orders. You should go into seclusion and not come out. Otherwise, don't worry. Yin Chuan is only in the chi state now. His performance at the Heavens Bestowment Conference was all because of the Golden Dragon of Fortune. That's nothing. Once he possesses the Golden Dragon of Fortune, his body will be extremely weak and vulnerable. As for that sword, your Great Winged Heaven School's treasure might not be inferior to that sword. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva laughed. That's right. Shinko Kuroha nodded. Esteemed envoy, I will send someone over now. Destroy Yinjing and kill Yin Chuan, Shinko Kuroha said solemnly. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva shook his head and said, Wait a little longer. I want to see the nation he built. I will report to the Lord later. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said. All right, Shinko Kuroha nodded. Don't worry. Yin Chuan seems to have had a lot of fortuitous encounters in the past few years, but his foundation is too weak. How can he be a match for your Great Winged Heaven School? The Lord's mission for you is to guard the East and wait for the Lord to take over the world. All you need to do is respond. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said, Esteemed envoy, don't worry. My Great Winged Heaven School will not disappoint the Lord, Shinko Kuroha said solemnly. The 9th of September will be here soon. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva sighed with his eyes squinted. Chapter 629. September 9th. Double Yang Day, Yinjin. The day of the Divine Lord Investiture Ceremony was approaching. Yinjin, Skyward Palace. The doors of the palace were tightly shut. Outside the palace, millions of soldiers stood in neat rows. They were all dressed in armor and looked very mighty. Although there were a few people who were looking around, under the solemn atmosphere, all of them became solemn. The million-strong army was made up of mercenaries that Yifeng had recruited from a large number of cities. Due to the lack of time, they had only made some simple rules. Around the periphery of the million-strong army, there were nearly 100,000 scattered practitioners gathered in the mountains and forests around them. Most of them were Confucian cultivators from the Jiulu Academy who had been invited by Yin Chuan. There were also cultivators from the surrounding cities and sections. After all, recruiting a million-strong army was too grand a scene. Many cultivators came to watch and observe the ceremony. Divine Lord Investiture Ceremony? Why is it founding a nation? A Confucian cultivator was puzzled. Didn't the virtuous paragon Yin Chuan want to establish an academy after obtaining the Divine Lord Investiture Scroll? What's going on? Another Confucian cultivator was puzzled. The Confucian cultivators were still puzzled. There was a transcendent existence among the Confucian cultivators. Greetings, Dean of the Jiulu Academy. The Confucian cultivators looked at the old man in white. The old man was the Dean of the Jiulu Academy, Meng Ziqiu. Meng Ziqiu smiled and shook his head. Everyone, I'm no longer the Dean of the Jiulu Academy. The current Dean of the Jiulu Academy is the virtuous paragon Yue. Yes, old Dean, you are a role model for all of us. Senior Meng, what do you think about Yin Chuan's founding of a nation? A Confucian cultivator asked respectfully. All the Confucian cultivators looked at Meng Ziqiu. Meng Ziqiu shook his head and said, I don't know the details. Let's wait and see. All the Confucian cultivators nodded. On the other side, the disciples of the major sects were also watching from afar. Founding a nation? Is Yin Chuan crazy? Recruiting a million-strong army? How many spirit stones would that cost? What's the use of a nation? Is it for mortals? Curious voices kept coming. More than 20 black-robed men were standing at the mouth of a mountain in the south. They were led by Shinko Kuroha and Great Wisdom Bodhisattva. He really founded a country and recruited a million soldiers? Shinko Kuroha asked with a strange expression. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva squinted his eyes. Build the celestial court? Kong Susu must have left it to Yin Chuan. Emissary, should we make a move now? Shinko Kuroha asked in a deep voice. Let's wait a little longer. I want to see his sea of providence. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva shook his head. Yes. Skyward Hall Plaza. There was a huge platform right in front of them. The high platform was covered with a red carpet all the way to the Skyward Hall. Lu Jin stood on the high platform with a horsetail whisk in her hand. She looked up at the sky and suddenly shouted, The time has come. A loud shout rang out. Woo woo. Dong dong dong. The sound of war drums and the sound of beast horns could be heard all around. All of a sudden, Beijing was immersed in a grand atmosphere. Bang! The gate of the skyward hall was opened. Dozens of officials stood in the hall and bowed respectfully to Yin Chuan, who was sitting on the dragon throne. Yin Chuan wore a black and gold dragon robe, a pair of boots with 5 dragons on his feet, and a black jade crown on his head. He looked extremely majestic. Yin Chuan slowly got up from the dragon throne as the gate opened. He slowly stepped down from the dragon throne and walked towards the gate of the hall. A group of officials waited respectfully. When Yin Chuan reached the gate, they followed behind him in an orderly manner. Chapter 630. Whoosh! With a wave of his dragon robe, Yin Chuan stepped out of the skyward palace and walked toward the high platform in the distance. Dong! 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 Woo! 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 War drums and beast horns sounded. The million-strong army watched as Yin Chuan walked toward the high platform. The officials followed behind him. In a large hall in the royal palace, Qing Long, Bai Long, Rosefinch, and Xuanwu followed behind Mo Yushi. Miao jumped onto Mo Yushi's shoulder. Miao, you look so mighty in the dragon robe, Miao said excitedly. Yes, Mo Yushi smiled. Prince Yin has finally established his kingdom. Qing Long exclaimed. Kingdom? Once this kingdom is established, it will not be weaker than any low-level sect. Mo Yushi said with certainty. Qing Long shook his head and smiled bitterly. Saint Lady, you might not know this, but the first thing Prince Yin did after establishing his kingdom was to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. Ah? What? Bai Long was shocked. How is that possible? Rosefinch was also in disbelief. Qing Long shook his head, not knowing how to explain. Let's wait and see. Mo Yushi's eyes flashed with excitement. Not far from Mo Yushi's palace, in another palace, Bai Detian stood with his hands behind his back, and several demons followed behind him. Establishing a kingdom? Paragon. What is Yin Chuan trying to do? A demon frowned. Yes, Paragon. How can he be willing to establish such a low-level government? Why is our tiger race station here? Another demon frowned. Speak less and watch more, Bai Detian said in a low voice. Yes. The group of tiger demons nodded. Who was Bai Detian? 8,000 years ago, he was the paragon of the tiger race. Back then, the tiger race was invincible. 8,000 years later, the tiger race had declined, and Bai Detian had returned. Who would dare to defy him? A few months ago, when Bai Detian found the group of demons, they were really shocked. However, they were even more elated and immediately pledged their loyalty. Although Bai Detian had not subdued all the tigers in the world in this year, there was not enough time. He had already sent a large number of tiger demons to the tiger race's territories to gather the tiger race's forces. Today was the 9th month Yin Chuan's kingdom's establishment ceremony, Bai Detian naturally, with a group of tiger demons. In the distance, on the red carpet, Yin Chuan had already reached the stage. The officials stood respectfully at the side. Yin Chuan looked at the high platform, stroked his dragon robe, and walked up step by step. The dragon's dragon empress stages step dragon kings on the stage. There was a jade table, a futon, and Lu Jin. Lu Jin was wearing a eunuch robe and bowed respectfully to Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan nodded and took out the investiture of the gods and the great heavenly seal. He placed the 2 items on the jade table. Kneel to the heavens. Lu Jin let out a long howl. Yin Chuan waved his dragon robe and knelt on the futon. He opened his arms and bowed to the heavens. Bow! Lu Jin roared. Yin Chuan bowed respectfully to the heavens. Bow again. Bow 3 times. As Lu Jin roared, Yin Chuan bowed respectfully to the heavens 3 times. Rise! Yin Chuan stood up. First bow to the heavens, thanking the heavens for their blessings. Second bow to the earth, thanking the earth for its grace. Kneel on the ground. Lu Jin roared again. Yin Chuan knelt again. He opened his arms and bowed again. Bow! Bow again! Bow 3 times. Lu Jin roared. Rise! Yin Chuan stood up. End of ceremony, Lu Jin roared. After that, Lu Jin bowed respectfully to Yin Chuan and slowly left the stage. Chapter 631. Only Yin Chuan was left on the high platform. Yin Chuan was dressed in a dragon robe. He looked around and slowly placed the great heavenly seal on the investiture of the gods. He pressed the imperial seal with his right hand and looked around solemnly. He slowly opened his mouth. From today onwards, I, Yin Chuan, kowtow to the heavens and earth. I have been blessed by the heavens and earth. I have established my country as Zhen. The great Jin dynasty has received the mandate of the heavens. May it live forever. Rubble. When Yin Chuan said the word Zhen, the investiture of the gods suddenly rumbled. A large Zhen word slowly appeared on the investiture of the gods. Yin Chuan reached out and picked up the great heavenly seal. Roar! A dragon roar suddenly shot into the sky from the investiture of the gods. Following the roar, everyone saw a huge golden dragon suddenly charge out of the investiture of the gods. The golden dragon was 3,000 meters long. It had a ferocious look in its eyes as it roared into the sky. As the golden dragon soared into the sky from Yin Chuan's high platform, a majestic gale shot into the sky. The gale blew away all the clouds in the sky. The golden dragon flew into the sky, surrounded by boundless providence. The dragon swayed its body and floated at a certain height. A large amount of providence slowly spread out, forming a huge sea of providence clouds. Above the sea of providence clouds, the golden dragon suddenly twisted its body and roared into the sky again. Roar! The dragon's roar pierced through the heavens and the earth. At this moment, the ears of the million-strong army were filled with the joyous dragon's roar. The countless Confucian cultivators and cultivators in the surroundings all held their breaths as they looked at the sky. They were extremely shocked because the dragon's roar was like a demonic sound that pierced their ears. It went straight to their hearts and brought with it a majestic feeling. On the second day, the sun at 7 in the morning seemed to emit a noble aura that illuminated the entire great Zhen dynasty. Lu Jin, Huaguang, Yifeng, and the other officials shouted respectfully, "Long live the Emperor! Long live the Emperor! Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty!" The million-strong army subconsciously followed suit. The solemnity of this moment seemed to have infected everyone. Together, they bowed to Yin Chuan on the high platform. "Long live His Majesty! Long live His Majesty!" The people all around Yinjing said respectfully. The golden dragon of Providence's roar was so powerful that it instantly rushed to all the cities of the great Zhen dynasty. When the citizens and officials of the various cities heard this sudden dragon roar, they were all filled with shock. Long live His Majesty! All the lands of the great Zhen dynasty worshipped Yin Chuan. Roar! Just as the Zhen was bowing to Yin Chuan, a dragon roar sounded from the east of Yinjing. Everyone looked over and saw a tall mountain rising from the ground in the distance to the east of Yinjing. No, it wasn't a tall mountain, but a mountain range. A huge mountain range that was heading east of Yinjing. Mountain ranges rising from the ground? Is that the dragon vein of the great earth? Someone exclaimed, "Roar!" A dragon roar was also heard from the west of Yinjing. Suddenly, a dragon vein rushed over from the west of Yinjing. Roar! 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 The south, north, southeast, northeast of Yinjing. Dragon roars could be heard from all directions of Yinjing. 100 dragons roared, and 100 dragon veins rushed towards Yinjing. 100 dragons roared. For a moment, the roars of dragons could be heard everywhere in Yinjing. 100 dragons roared, as if they were the golden dragon of Dezhen's providence. Roar! The golden dragon of Dezhen's providence kept roaring. The entire land of Yinjing suddenly trembled in the roar. It was as if there was an earthquake. The earth trembled, and 100 dragon veins rushed over. What's going on? The earth is rising. The earth is rising. Countless cultivators exclaimed. Chapter 632. What happened? The earth is rising! The earth is rising! Countless cultivators exclaimed, Ong! Ong! Hundreds of earth dragon veins continued to collide, and the earth in the vast area around Yinjing suddenly expanded. Amidst the rumbling, the ground grew taller and taller, and so did Yinjing. Standing in Beijing and looking into the distance, one could clearly see the ground sinking in the distance. It was fine for ordinary cultivators because they could not see far. The 100 dragon veins took up too much space. The ground rose higher and higher. Gradually, the high-level cultivators found that there was a sea of clouds at the edge of Yinjing. Yinjing suddenly soared to the same level as Yunhai. Some cultivators even flew into the distance. Rumble! Standing at the edge of Yinjing, one could even see the countless clouds below their feet. Several thousand feet? This piece of land has risen by several thousand feet? Someone cried out in shock. What a rich heaven-earth yuan qi! It's several times more than my sex. Countless cultivators sighed. Meng Ziqiu frowned as he sensed the heaven-earth yuan qi. Senior Meng, the essence qi here seems to be even more. A Confucian cultivator said in disbelief. Meng Ziqiu nodded and said, That's right. In terms of the qi of heaven and earth here, it's even denser than in Julu City. Cultivating here will yield twice the results with half the effort. In the forest to the south, gathering the dragon vein in Beijing? What a powerful dragon luring technique. This is a feng shui master. Great wisdom, Bodhisattva frowned. Feng shui master? Shinku and Kuroha was surprised. Shinku and Kuroha, you have collected too little information. Yin Chuan knows a feng shui master. Why is it not in the information you gave me? Great wisdom, Bodhisattva said in a deep voice. I don't know. There's no news at all. Shinku and Kuroha felt wronged. Taking a deep breath, the great wisdom Bodhisattva looked at Yin Chuan on the high platform again. 100 dragon veins gathered, and the essence qi of heaven and earth gathered around Yinjing. Many cultivators even planned to stay and cultivate. On the high platform, Yin Chuan took a deep breath. Then he grabbed the investiture of the gods and looked at the officials. On the investiture of the gods, there was a large Zhen character. One layer above the word Zhen, on the leftmost side, a large word Huang slowly appeared. Below the word Huang were the two words Yin Chuan. Then came the second column. The word Empress appeared, and below the word Zhenro slowly appeared. Looking at Zhenro, who was listed as the Empress, Yin Chuan sighed in his heart. She had already passed away, but Yin Chuan still placed Zhenro in the ranks of the Empress. Third row, Crown Prince. When the Crown Prince and his entourage appeared, Yin Chuan fell silent. Looking at the empty space below the Crown Prince, a golden cloud slowly condensed, as if it was about to condense a name. But halfway through, Yin Chuan sighed softly, and the golden cloud slowly dissipated. The name below the Crown Prince and his entourage didn't condense. Instead, it gradually dissipated. From today onwards, Huguang will be the first army commander of the Great Jin Dynasty. Yin Chuan shouted, Thank you, Your Majesty, Huguang said respectfully. Next, the words First Army Commander appeared on the investiture of the gods, followed by the words Huguang. From today onwards, Yifeng will be the second army commander of the Great Jin Dynasty. Yin Chuan shouted, Thank you, Your Majesty, Yifeng said respectfully. Chapter 633. On the investiture of the gods, the words Second Army Commander appeared, followed by the words Yifeng. From today onwards, Lu Jin will be the general manager of the Great Jin Empire. Yin Chuan shouted, Thank you, Your Majesty. Lu Jin said respectfully. From today onwards, Lu Gang will be the Governor-General of the Great Jin Empire's Eastern Intelligence Agency. Thank you, Your Majesty. Lu Gang stepped forward respectfully. From today onwards, with the investiture of the gods in hand, Yin Chuan ascended to godhood one by one. One by one, the officials were reported on the investiture of the gods. All the officials whose names were reported were shocked, and a surge of providence rushed into their bodies. Great Jin Empire's national beast, Tiger. Finally, Yin Chuan shouted once again. On the investiture of the gods, the words national beast and tiger appeared at the last moment. And by Detian's palace, providence? Supreme being, is this providence? Supreme being, I feel providence entering my body. The tiger race demons were feeling the providence excitedly. Only by Detian squinted his eyes and looked towards the west. All of you have received orders from me and the heavens. You must abide by your duties and strengthen our great Jun empire. Yanchuan kept the investiture of the gods and shouted, Long live his majesty! Long live his majesty! Long live your majesty! After another round of cheers, Great Jin Empire officially ascended to godhood. In the southern forest, Shinkuan Kuroha and the great wisdom Bodhisattva frowned. It's over. Emissary, should we take action? Shinkuan Kuroha asked with a frown. Yin Chuan must die, but this doesn't seem to be the right time. The great wisdom Bodhisattva frowned. Not the right time? There are too many people watching. I'm worried. The great wisdom Bodhisattva frowned. Shall we wait 2 days before killing Yin Chuan? Shinkuan Kuroha asked. Just as great wisdom Bodhisattva was about to nod, his expression suddenly changed. On the high platform, Yin Chuan put away the investiture of the gods and suddenly turned to look at them. No, Yin Chuan has discovered us. Great wisdom Bodhisattva's expression changed. Above the sea of providence clouds, the golden dragon of providence suddenly let out a deafening roar. As it roared, the golden dragon of providence suddenly twisted its body and swooped down toward the southern forest. Roar! The loud dragon roar carried a strong destructive force, causing the ears of many cultivators to ring. The dragon's eyes widened in anger as it clawed at the forest. Rumble! The entire forest was completely crushed under the dragon's claws. Not good attack, Shinkuan Kuroha shouted. More than 20 figures attacked the golden dragon of providence almost simultaneously. Boom! The dazzling light instantly blinded some of the surrounding Shouja. Bastard Yin Chuan! True Lord, save me! Miserable screams rang out. When everyone's vision recovered, a shocking scene appeared in front of them. The forest was destroyed by the golden dragon of providence. On the ground, there were corpses crushed by the golden dragon. They were badly mutilated and disgusting. In midair, the great wisdom Bodhisattva stood on a golden lotus. He clasped his hands together and looked at the opposite side with anger. There were 9 people left behind the great wisdom Bodhisattva, including Shinkuan Kuroha. Shinkuan Kuroha's eyes were bloodshot as he stared at the opposite side. Chapter 634. On the opposite side, the golden dragon of providence circled around Yin Chuan. The golden dragon of providence stared fiercely at the 10 people in the air. The golden dragon of providence's sneak attack had caused Shinkuan Kuroha to lose more than half of his forces. How could he not be angry? Great wisdom Bodhisattva and Shinkuan Kuroha stared coldly at Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan also stared coldly at the 10 people. Great wisdom Bodhisattva? Shinkuan Kuroha? Yin Chuan sneered. You did it on purpose? You discovered us a long time ago? Shinkuan Kuroha said with hatred. The exposure of Shinkuan Kuroha and great wisdom Bodhisattva shocked the surrounding cultivators. That's the sect master of the Great Winged Heaven School? Great wisdom Bodhisattva? Bodhisattva? He's a Bodhisattva? Why did Yin Chuan attack them? Can Great Jin fight against a mid-level sect? Countless curious voices sounded as they looked at Yin Chuan on the high platform. You want to disrupt my Great Jin's founding? It's a pity that you didn't bring your entire sect here. It's a pity that you didn't bring hundreds of sects here. You have missed your last chance today. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said coldly, Last chance? Shinkuan Kuroha narrowed his eyes. Yin Chuan ignored Shinkuan Kuroha and looked at Great Wisdom Bodhisattva, who was on the golden lotus. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva, you came all the way from the west. It seems like you'll have to return empty-handed this time. Yin Chuan said coldly. You're just a country under a dynasty. It's like a low-level sect. Do you really think you're invincible? Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said coldly. A country under a dynasty? You know about the celestial nation? Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. According to the information gathered over the years, Yin Chuan discovered that there was no celestial empire in this world. How did the wise Bodhisattva know about it? The imperial dynasty is a lower country, the imperial dynasty is China, and the celestial dynasty is a higher country. It seems that Kong Susu did indeed leave that information to you. Emperor Ku really shouldn't have trusted her. I was right to come. The Golden Dragon of Destiny? Unfortunately, you're still far from being able to deal with me. Great Wisdom Bodhisattva said indifferently. Oh! Yin Chuan showed a trace of disdain. With a flip of his hand, Bodhisattva Great Wisdom took out a pair of golden gloves. A large amount of seven-colored light flowed on the gloves. After putting on the gloves, the Bodhisattva of Wisdom suddenly waved his hand. Dragon subduing! Great Wisdom Bodhisattva waved his hands. Rumble! Suddenly, two huge golden palms appeared in the void. Each of the palms was thousands of feet long, and they pressed down on the Golden Dragon of Luck. Wherever the palms passed, strong winds blew in the void. The palms were about the same size as the Golden Dragon of Luck. The two palms seemed to have enveloped the Golden Dragon of Luck, and a strong force pressed down on the Golden Dragon of Luck. Roar! The Golden Dragon of Luck suddenly roared, and golden light shot out from its body. Its strong body suddenly twisted. Boom! Boom! The dragon's tail fiercely swung under the two golden palms, and the two palms suddenly stopped. Then, they grabbed at the Golden Dragon of Luck again. The huge palms covered the sky as if they were controlling everything. Buddha's golden palm? That glove is a Western treasure. Buddha's golden palm? Isn't it in the hands of a Buddha? Why is it in the hands of the wise Bodhisattva? Buddha's golden palm is a Buddhist Tao, quasi-immortal artifact. The Golden Dragon of Luck? Can it block the Buddha's golden palm? While the cultivators were still in shock, a golden palm fell from the sky as if it was going to smash the entire Yin capital into powder. It was as if the palm was going to destroy the entire Great Jun. Chapter 635. The Buddha's palm descended from the sky with a destructive aura, as though it was going to destroy the entire Yinjing. The million-strong army was shocked. Although there were a lot of them, the force was obviously beyond what they could handle. Even if they attacked at the same time, they would still die under the Buddha's palm. The power of the palm was too strong. Standing below, they felt as though a strong gust of wind was pressing down on them, suffocating them. On the high platform, Yin Chuan looked at the Buddha's palm descending from the sky and squinted his eyes. Roar! The Golden Dragon of Providence suddenly roared, twisted its body, and rushed towards the Buddha's palm descending from the sky. Previously, the Golden Dragon of Providence was still avoiding the Buddha's palm, but now it had to face it head-on for the sake of Yinjing. Far away, the Great Wisdom Bodhisattva revealed a satisfied look. The Buddha's palm had captured the Golden Dragon of Providence several times, but the Golden Dragon of Providence escaped. This time, with the threat of destroying Yinjing, the Golden Dragon of Providence obediently gave in. Subdue the dragon. The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva glared. Boom! The Golden Dragon of Providence and the Buddha's palm collided, and a violent gust of wind blew in all directions. A large number of cultivators swayed in the wind. Boom! Another loud sound was heard, and the other Buddha's palm suddenly slammed onto the Golden Dragon of Providence from the side door. For a moment, the two Buddha's palms seemed to have trapped the Golden Dragon of Providence. Ong! The Golden Dragon of Providence struggled, but it couldn't escape the grasp of the Buddha's palm. For a moment, the Golden Dragon of Providence was trapped and couldn't escape. Ah, Yin Chuan, how's that? The Great Wisdom Bodhisattva laughed. Trapping the Golden Dragon of Providence was like holding down Yin Chuan's hand, and Yin Chuan couldn't use the power of the Golden Dragon of Providence. Yin Chuan sneered. So that's all? Great Wisdom Bodhisattva's expression turned cold. Ong! 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 All of a sudden, the original 100-dragon veins all roared. Then, one could see the silhouette of a golden dragon emerging from the ground and rushing toward the Golden Dragon of Providence. What's that? Dragon vein? Dragon veins? That's dragon chi. While countless cultivators were astonished. Hundreds of streams of dragon chi rushed toward the golden dragon of providence, trapped by the Buddha's palm. Rumble! As the dragon chi entered his body, the golden dragon of providence suddenly trembled violently. Furthermore, his body was slowly growing larger. The golden dragon of fortune was furious. It twisted its head and roared furiously. Crack! Crack! Under the dragon's roar, the huge Buddha's palm was slowly pushed open by the golden dragon of providence. How can this be? The great wisdom Bodhisattva's expression changed. Dragon subduing might. The great wisdom Bodhisattva used all his strength to activate the Buddha's golden palm. Rumble! The Buddha's palm became even more dazzling, but the golden dragon of providence couldn't stop it at all. As it grew larger, the golden dragon of providence's size and strength also increased. 2 times, 5 times, 10 times. From 1,000 feet long, it grew to 100,000 feet long. The Buddha's palm that originally trapped it looked so childish at this moment. Do you really think the Yin capital's feng shui array is just for show? Yin Chuan said coldly. Boom! A dragon claw clawed at one of the Buddha's palms. The other dragon claw followed suit. Rip! Boom! Chapter 636. The massive Buddha palm was torn apart by the golden dragon of providence. Bam! The golden glove on the great wisdom Bodhisattva's hand also exploded. No, impossible! The great wisdom Bodhisattva exclaimed. At this moment, the golden dragon of providence suddenly grabbed another Buddha. Rip! Boom! The other Buddha exploded. The other glove on the great wisdom Bodhisattva's hand also exploded. No! The great wisdom Bodhisattva exclaimed. That was a pseudo-immortal artifact. The Buddha golden palm was destroyed by Yin Chuan's golden dragon of providence. The great wisdom Bodhisattva looked at the palm before looking at the furious golden dragon of providence. Whoosh! The great wisdom Bodhisattva turned around and shot into the distance. Roar! The golden dragon of providence roared as it charged forward and instantly arrived in front of the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Crack! The huge dragon claw grabbed at the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Buzz! The golden lotus beneath the great wisdom Bodhisattva's feet instantly formed a boundary that enveloped the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Boom! The dragon claw grabbed onto the boundary and dragged the great wisdom Bodhisattva back. Yin Chuan, what are you doing? The great wisdom Bodhisattva exclaimed in panic. The golden dragon of providence suddenly exerted force. Crack, 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 crack. Large amounts of cracks suddenly appeared on the boundary. What am I doing? What do you think I am doing? Yin Chuan said coldly. At this moment, the surrounding cultivators held their breaths as they watched quietly. When the Buddha golden palm struck out, everyone thought that Yin Chuan and great wisdom were finished. They had just established their nation and was about to be destroyed. However, who would have thought that the legendary Buddha golden palm would be torn apart by the golden dragon of providence? Great wisdom? This is the strength of great wisdom? What a powerful golden dragon of providence. Too ferocious. Countless cultivators revealed a horrified expression. At this moment, the Bodhisattva of wisdom was trapped by the golden dragon of providence. I'm the great wisdom Bodhisattva. If you dare to kill me, Emperor Immo-ku will definitely come to the east and destroy your body and soul. The great wisdom Bodhisattva said in a panic. Ka 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 ka. More and more cracks appeared on the golden lotus barrier. Yin Chuan's eyes were cold, without a trace of pity. Second level of the middle void stage? In Yinjing, you can only rely on your magical equipment. Unfortunately, your magical equipment is also destroyed. Moke, since we dared to kill you, we are not afraid of Immo-ku coming again. Yin Chuan's eyes turned cold. Boom! The barrier exploded, and so did the great wisdom Bodhisattva's golden lotus. The golden dragon of providence clawed at the great wisdom Bodhisattva. No! Great wisdom Bodhisattva roared. Boom! Suddenly, there was a loud bang, and the golden dragon of destiny's body trembled. The great wisdom bodhisattva in its palm was rescued by a white light. Someone else was coming. It was a man in a silver Taoist robe with a tall Taoist bun on his head. His face was fair, and he had a small mustache on his chin. He looked extremely handsome. He was surrounded by a silver aura and looked extremely ethereal. Although he stood in the air casually, he exuded an aura of nobility. His eyes were glowing, as if he could see through everything in the world. This was the person who saved the great wisdom bodhisattva. At this moment, he stood in the air and looked at the golden dragon of providence with interest. Roar! The golden dragon of providence roared at the man in the silver Taoist robe. Who are you? Yin Chuan asked coldly. Whoosh! Whoosh! Not far away, several figures soared into the sky. It was Mo Yushi Qinglong and the others. Chapter 637. Greetings, Tao Lord Yu. Mo Yushi said anxiously. Tao Lord Yu? One of the three great Tao lords of the Dezhou Holy Land? Immediately, countless cultivators around revealed looks of surprise. Tao Lord Yu was a very distant existence in everyone's hearts. That unattainable existence actually appeared here? This is Tao Lord Yu's main body. Meng Zichio's face darkened. Greetings, Tao Lord Yu. Countless cultivators around bowed respectfully. Holy Daughter Yushi is actually here too. Huh? Tao Lord Yu smiled slightly. Where did you come from? Why did you save the monk this time? Mo Yushi asked puzzledly. Oh, I can't save Holy Daughter Yushi. Tao Lord Yu smiled slightly. No, the monk this time came from the west and confronted the native sects of the east. Tao Lord, why are you helping the foreign monk from the west? The Dezhou Holy Land is mighty and dominates the east. How can you damage your own prestige? Tao Lord, is this the Holy Lord's intention? Mo Yushi frowned. Little girl, you know how to use the Holy Lord to suppress me now. Tao Lord Yu said with a smile. Yushi doesn't dare. Tao Lord Yu looked at Bodhisattva, great wisdom, who he saved. Bodhisattva, great wisdom, bowed respectfully to Tao Lord Yu. Thank you, Tao Lord Yu, for your help. I can't thank you enough. Bodhisattva, great wisdom, said respectfully. Tao Lord Yu looked at Bodhisattva, great wisdom, then looked at the enormous destiny, golden dragon. Finally, he looked at Yin Chuan. Great Jin dynasty? It's rare to build a sect with a country. You must be Yin Chuan. Tao Lord Yu looked at Yin Chuan and said with a faint smile. Greetings, Tao Lord Yu. I wonder why Tao Lord Yu is here? Why did you save Bodhisattva, great wisdom? Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Yin Chuan was neither humble nor arrogant, without any intention of bowing. Tao Lord Yu looked at Yin Chuan and could feel the arrogance emitted by Yin Chuan. However, Tao Lord Yu did not harp on Yin Chuan's attitude. I'm here to look for Bai Di Tian. I didn't expect to see the great perfection kingdom. What an imposing manner. This great wisdom bodhisattva is the disciple of an old friend of mine. Why don't you give me some face and not pursue the matter? Tao Lord Yu looked at Yin Chuan. Although Tao Lord Yu's tone was polite, it contained a will that could not be refuted. Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes and glared at Tao Lord Young Moon. There was a brief moment of silence. Good. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Roar! The golden dragon of providence suddenly flew up into the sea of providence. Suddenly, a large amount of dragon chi leaked out and turned into hundreds of golden dragons. They flew back the way they came and rushed towards the dragon veins. The dragon chi dissipated, and the golden dragon of providence returned to its original size of 10,000 feet. It hovered above the sea of providence. The golden dragon of providence returned to its position. Yin Chuan flicked his dragon robe and ignored Tao Lord Yu as he walked down the platform. Turning around and leaving? That attitude of ignoring Tao Lord Yu caused Tao Lord Yu to raise his brows slightly. No matter which sect it was, when Tao Lord Yu descended, the masters of the various sects were all careful and respectful. This was the first time Dao Lord Yu had seen someone ignore him like that. Mo Yushi was slightly anxious. However, Yin Chuan's attitude was already set, and he naturally would not turn around to curry favor. Looking at Yin Chuan's back view, Dao Lord Yu's eyes darkened slightly. However, it was hidden very quickly. The Bodhisattva of wisdom looked at Yin Chuan, who left, and was stunned for a moment, not knowing how to describe his feelings at that moment. Was Yin Chuan crazy? He actually had such an attitude towards Dao Lord Yu. Down the platform, Yin Chuan looked at the officials. Yifeng, inform all the cultivators that came that the imperial examinations of Great Jun will be held 10 days later. All the scholars and virtuous people will be invited to become officials of Great Jun. Yin Chuan ordered. Yes, Yifeng replied. Chapter 638. Half a month had passed since the founding of the Great Jun Empire. In a mountain forest, the great wisdom Bodhisattva and his 2 disciples looked at Shinkuin Kuroha. Shinkuin Kuroha, I have to go back. The Great Jun Empire has appeared out of nowhere. I have to report this to the Lord as soon as possible, said the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Ah, you're going back? If you go back to the west, what about me? Asked Shinkuin Kuroha anxiously. Don't worry. As long as you don't go to Yinjing and provoke Yin Chuan, you'll be fine. The Great Jin Empire can't do anything to you, said the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Really? Yinjing is the border of the Great Jin Empire. It's also the place where the power of the Great Jun Empire gathers. Once the Sea of Providence is set, you can't leave. Now that Yin Chuan has founded his empire, the Golden Dragon of Providence can only guard Yinjing. Most of Yin Chuan's power comes from the Golden Dragon of Providence. The Golden Dragon of Providence will be stationed in Yinjing forever. As long as you don't go to Yinjing, you'll be fine. That's good. Also, the lower empire is equivalent to a lower-rank sect. Your Great Feather Heavenly Sect is a middle-rank sect. You don't have to worry. Moreover, your Great Feather Heavenly Sect has 2 Middle Void Realm experts. The lower-rank sect won't be able to do anything to you. Even the middle-rank sect won't be able to do anything to you in your Great Feather Heavenly Sect's territory. Shinkuin Kuroha nodded. Indeed, half a month ago, the Golden Dragon of Providence's power had given Shinkuin Kuroha a huge blow. Guard the east well. I'll update you after I report this to the Lord, said the great wisdom Bodhisattva. Okay. Shinkuin Kuroha nodded. The great wisdom Bodhisattva nodded. With a wave of his sleeves, he brought his 2 disciples and flew towards the west. In the blink of an eye, they had disappeared. Shinkuin Kuroha was still worried as he watched the wise Bodhisattva leave. Sect Master, shall we head back now? Someone behind Shinkuin Kuroha asked. Shinkuin Kuroha thought for a moment and said, Notify all the subsidiary sects to not offend the Grand Jin dynasty. Yes. Let's return to the sect. Shinkuin Kuroha said. Yes. Great Jin Dynasty, Yinjing. Skyward Hall? Half a month ago, when the country was founded, there were only 30 officials in the Skyward Palace. Now, the number of officials in the 2 rows had increased to 100. The officials stood in 2 rows in the main hall. Yifeng stepped forward and bowed to Yin Chuan. Yin Chuan was wearing a black dragon robe and a black jade crown. He sat on the 9 dragons' heavenly throne and looked down at the officials. Your Majesty, the first imperial examination of the Great Jin Dynasty recruited a total of 8,406 officials. 64 of them entered the Skyward Palace. According to Your Majesty's imperial edict, they have been assigned to various positions to fill the vacancies. Yifeng said respectfully. Yin Chuan tapped his dragon throne lightly and nodded. Your Majesty, the Great Jun Dynasty now has Yinjing and Worry-Free City, 2 immortal cities, and 1,000 mortal cities. We have also recruited 1,000,000 soldiers. Should we send them to guard the cities? Yifeng asked. Yin Chuan thought for a moment and shook his head. The 1,000,000 soldiers are too loose and undisciplined. They will only be useful after some training. Yes, Huoguang. Yin Chuan said. Yes, Your Majesty. Huoguang immediately stepped forward. You and Yifeng will each receive 500,000. I will give you half a year to gather the morale of the army and show the might of the army. Yin Chuan ordered, "Yes, Your Majesty." Yifeng and Huoguang replied at the same time. "Do you remember the battle of the 100 sects against the Day sect?" Yin Chuan looked at Yifeng. Chapter 639. I know, Your Majesty. Your parents were forced to their deaths by the Great Winged Heaven School and the hundreds of affiliated sects in the Day sect. Yifeng nodded. I have to avenge my parents. I want to conquer all the sects. In half a year, during the training period, your two armies have to destroy 5 sects each. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Yes, Your Majesty, I will not disappoint you. Huoguang immediately shouted, I will definitely complete my emperor's order. Yifeng shouted, Yifeng, you will write the declaration. In 3 days, the declaration will be spread everywhere, and the army will set off. Yin Chuan shouted, As you command. The two of them replied at the same time. Court is dismissed. Yin Chuan said calmly. Court is dismissed. Lu Jin shouted, Long live the emperor! Long live the emperor! The officials cheered as they sent Yin Chuan off. After the court was dismissed, Yin Chuan met Bai Ditian in a palace. Dao, Lord, you left? Yin Chuan looked at Bai Ditian. He left. Bai Ditian nodded. It's good that he left. You can find the Tiger Tribe's base near Yinjing. Just let me know if you see any place you like. Yin Chuan nodded. Why? Don't you want to know why Dao, Lord, you came? Bai Ditian smiled. Why can't I come? Isn't it because I want you to follow me? Yin Chuan smiled. Bai Ditian nodded and took a deep breath. After Mohina Dojin saw me last time, he went back and reported to Jingming. Jingming sent Dao, Lord Yu, to recruit me. Jingming? Did he threaten you? Yin Chuan asked. No, he just persuaded him. I can even feel that Jingming has a sense of arrogance and doesn't care about the heroes of the world, Bai Ditian said. Oh, it's just my feeling. At this moment, Jingming might have reached an invincible state. It's not just his strength, but more of his state of mind. Bai Ditian took a deep breath. Yes. Yin Chuan nodded. 3 months later, in a sect near the Great Zhun dynasty. At this moment, the sects and the like were all propped up, forming a huge shield to protect the inside. Inside, the sect was in a mess. In the sect's main hall, a group of cultivators were discussing anxiously. Sect Master, what should we do? It's the army of the Great Zhun dynasty outside. That's the Great Zhun dynasty. Sect Leader, this is revenge. Yin Chuan is here for revenge. Sect Master, what should we do now? The hall was in a mess. A group of people looked at a white-haired old man. Use eyes. Uses when he's you felt a chill in the main hall. At this moment, another man rushed into the main hall and looked at the sect master in despair. Master, I just checked. 400,000. The Great Jin Dynasty's army has 400,000 soldiers. The man said in horror. 400,000? 400,000? How many disciples do we have in our sect? The sect master's face was extremely ugly. 4,000, the disciple said. 400,000? 4,000? Ha! The heavens are going to kill our sect. The sect master cried out in grief. Outside the sect, Yifeng stood in a hidden place in the forest and looked at the sect supported by the array formation. Break the arrays, Yifeng said indifferently. Chapter 640. Once the order was given, the news spread in all directions. The 400,000 soldiers drew their longbows almost simultaneously. They faced the sect's array in the distance. Fire! Countless banner bearers shouted at the same time. Bang! 400,000 shooting sun arrows were like 400,000 shooting stars as they crashed into the sect's grand formation. So what if it was the sect's array? Even the sect's array would be broken when 400,000 times the power was unleashed at the same time. Hong! The mountain gate array exploded with a loud bang. Kill! Once the array was broken, a large number of soldiers rushed to the sect's gate. Countless cultivators in the sect felt their legs go weak before they even arrived. When some sect disciples finally rushed out, the archers on the flanks immediately shot thousands of arrows, killing many disciples on the spot. Boom! Boom! In the sect master's hall, the moment the sect's array was broken, the sect master rushed to the sky. Come out, scoundrels. Which one of you is the commander of the army? Come out and fight with me. The sect master shouted at the 400,000 soldiers. In a hidden place in the forest, Yifeng squinted his eyes. Is the sect master out of his mind? Inform the Qi Jing generals to torture him to death. Yifeng's eyes turned cold. Yes. The generals quickly passed on the order. Boom! 400,000 soldiers trampled a sect of 4,000 people. It was a one-sided massacre. The battle cries continued, and countless disciples of the various sects fell rapidly. On the other side, the First Legion, Huoguang was different from Yifeng. Huoguang took the lead and broke a sect's array. Kill! Huoguang rushed forward with his spear. With Huoguang leading, the army's morale soared. Huoguang faced an immortal state warrior. Boom! The spear pierced through the immortal state warrior's head. The sect master died on the spot. Countless disciples of the sect opened their mouths in shock. How were they supposed to fight? The sect master would die if he charged forward? How could they fight? In the sky, Huoguang said coldly, "Don't leave a single one alive. Kill! Roar! Kill! I am invincible." In order to avenge their parents, the great Zhen dynasty's proclamation quickly spread to countless immortal cities. Similarly, in half a year's time, the news of the annihilation of the 10 great sects spread quickly. It was quickly sent to the Great Winged Heaven School. Great Winged Heaven School, Sect Master Hall. Shinkuin Kuroha, Dezhun is too powerful. What should we do now? Shinkuin Kuroha, 10 sects have already been destroyed. No, including the 14 that were destroyed before the founding of Dezhun. Dezhun has already destroyed 24 sects. Shinkuin Kuroha, what do we do now? Everyone said anxiously. Shinkuin Kuroha comforted them. I can understand your feelings. You are all sect leaders, and Dezhun has only just established a country. A newly established country? But this is no longer a matter of establishing a country. Dezhun is too powerful. Perfected cultivator, please stop them. A sect leader said worriedly. Perfected cultivator, please stop them. The other sect leaders said. Shinkuin Kuroha nodded and said, the Zhen dynasty only gathered mercenaries. Everyone, you all have your own cities. Why don't you gather mercenaries to join the battle? You can even form an army of mercenaries to fight against Dezhun's army. Destroy Dezhun's army. Destroy? Everyone looked at Shinkuin Kuroha. That's right. We can't just sit around and wait for death to come. Since we can't go to Yanjin for the time being, we will destroy Dezhun's army outside. Once Dezhun's army is destroyed, who will dare to enter Dezhun? By then, Dezhun will not be a threat. Shinkuin Kuroha said. You are wise, perfected cultivator. The other sect leaders laughed. Chapter 641. Half a year later, the First and Second Legions returned in triumph. Great Zhen Dynasty, Skyward Palace. Reporting to the Emperor, in half a year, 10 sects were annihilated. We seized countless spirit stones and treasures. The 3 immortal cities controlled by these 10 sects are now officially part of Great Zhen's territory. Yifeng said solemnly, your achievements will be recorded for now. Once we settle the Great Winged Heaven School, we will reward you all. Yanchuan sat on the dragon throne and said with satisfaction, yes. Yifeng and Huoguang replied at the same time. From today onwards, Yifeng will lead the Second Legion and withdraw from the battlefield. He will be in charge of logistics. Yanchuan ordered. Yes, Yifeng replied. Huoguang will lead the First Legion and continue to conquer the major sects. Yanchuan looked at Huoguang. Yes, Huoguang replied. Reporting to the Emperor, according to the reports from the scouts, some sects are also recruiting mercenaries. Huoguang frowned. Mercenary army? Our Great Zhen army has already experienced blood and death. Our orders are strictly followed, and our morale is united. Do we still fear the scattered sand? Yanchuan laughed. Rest assured, Emperor, the First Legion will definitely be victorious and invincible. Huoguang immediately guaranteed. Yin Chuan nodded. With Huoguang as the god of war and Huoguang's ability to lead the army, Yin Chuan was naturally assured. The army continued to destroy the major sections. The massacre started again. The First Legion took out 300,000 soldiers and began to settle down in the four cities. Huoguang only had 300,000 soldiers left to conquer the major sections. But even with only 300,000 soldiers, it was enough. The army obeyed orders and restrictions. Huoguang's image as the god of war grew stronger and stronger. He was simply invincible. Kill, kill, kill. In a mountain forest, nearly 10,000 mercenaries were forced into a dead valley. Huoguang flew out. My great Jin dynasty does not kill innocent people. You have all been deceived by the Green River sect, which is why you have rebelled against my great Jin dynasty. If you surrender now, I won't kill you. Otherwise, I will treat you as my mortal enemy, and I won't spare any of you. Huoguang shouted. Don't! We surrender. We're just mercenaries trying to earn some spiritual stones. Don't shoot. I surrender. I'm willing to join Great Jun. I surrender. I surrender. Mercenaries didn't have enough morale, and their biggest weakness was that they would scatter in a single charge. Although the various large sects hired mercenaries, it was a pity that these mercenaries would not risk their lives for them. They would only do it for the spirit stones. If they were forced into a life or death situation, they would immediately give up resisting. Huoguang surrounded them, but did not kill them. In the blink of an eye, the mercenary forces were dismantled without shedding a drop of blood. Great Jun Dynasty, Skyward Palace Square. Yin Chuan and Yifeng overlooked Yanjing City. Where is Huoguang now? Yin Chuan asked. He's currently at the 8th Sect's mountain range. At this moment, 10 sects have formed an alliance to encircle and annihilate Huoguang. According to the reports, the 10 sects have gathered close to 400,000 mercenaries. Including the disciples of the 10 sects, Huoguang has an army of 300,000. It seems like this battle will be difficult. Yifeng said, encirclement and annihilation? That's good too. Yin Chuan nodded. Your Majesty, do we need to send reinforcements? Yifeng asked worriedly. There's no need. It's a war, and it's naturally not a matter of numbers. For 100,000? That depends on the general's tie. Among the disciples of the sects, which one can command an army like Huoguang? Just wait, Huoguang will surprise me, Yin Chuan said confidently. Yifeng nodded. 8 sects mountain range. Report. A scout quickly ran to Huoguang's location. Reporting to my lord, 400,000 mercenaries have gathered at Zhui Yofeng's location. They seem to be looking for our army, the scout reported. Chapter 642. 400,000 soldiers gathered in one place? Who is their commander? So cute, huh? Huoguang laughed loudly. Huh? The generals laughed loudly. The 10 sects are surrounding us? Humph! Let's go and destroy their headquarters. Old Zhang, take 200,000 soldiers and go to Xiahe sect. The strongest cultivator in that sect is only at the divine realm, and there are only 8,000 disciples. No, there should only be 4,000 disciples in that sect. 200,000 soldiers. Destroy them as soon as possible. Huoguang said. Yes, sir. A general immediately shouted. But, sir, isn't it too extravagant to use 200,000 soldiers to destroy 4,000 of them? Old Zhang laughed. Huh? The generals and soldiers laughed. It's not extravagant, but it must be fast. You only have 2 days when you get there. You must destroy them within 2 days. Otherwise, the 10 sects will get the news, and a large number of experts will come. It will be very bad. You must be fast. Huoguang said seriously. Yes, sir. After destroying Xiahe sect, go to Three Suns sect and meet with me. Huoguang said firmly. Yes, sir. Then, sir, where are you going? I am going to Tai Yuan sect. Tai Yuan sect has about 10,000 disciples. I am confident that I can defeat them with 10 against 1. After Tai Yuan sect is destroyed, I will go to Three Suns sect. Let's see who will arrive first. Huoguang laughed. Yes, sir. I will arrive first. Old Zhang laughed excitedly. Then, let's wait and see. Let's go. Hua Guang laughed loudly. They split up and went straight to the headquarters. Scouts were spread out everywhere to monitor the situation of the army. The military tactics of the mortal world were not useless. It was also very useful in the cultivation world. After Hua Guang destroyed the 3 sects, he obtained a large number of spirit stones and magical treasures. The 10 sects army was still at a loss and did not know where Hua Guang's army was. Bastard, bastard! The 10 sects leaders shouted in fear. The 400,000 soldiers had learned from Hua Guang and divided their troops. However, they had only scratched the surface. Compared to the military god Hua Guang, the difference was too great. This battle lasted for 8 months. During these 8 months, there were head-on clashes and sneak attacks. Out of Hua Guang's army of 300,000, 50,000 were killed or injured. However, they managed to capture and persuade 150,000 soldiers to surrender. Hua Guang's army did not decrease. Instead, it increased by 100,000. As for the 10 great sects, there were less than 50,000 mercenaries out of the original 400,000. Even if there were 50,000 left, they would still be in a constant state of panic. As for the 10 great sects, they were almost completely wiped out. Only the 3 sect leaders were barely holding on. No, I want to see Shinkuin Kuroha. I'm going to. As soon as the 3 sect leaders left and fled towards the east, the grand encirclement and suppression immediately collapsed. The momentum of the First Legion grew even stronger. At the same time, the Dajin Empire's combat strength was displayed before everyone for the first time. 1.5 years. In just 1.5 years, 20 sects were destroyed and 8 immortal cities were obtained. The Dajin Empire's army did not decrease at all. Instead, it increased due to the war. Hua Guang led the army and continued to advance towards the east. They continued to destroy the sects. The Dajin Empire's officials and citizens were extremely excited. The rise of a great country was what everyone wanted to see. At this moment, the Dajin Empire's invincibility was even more inspiring. Although the citizens of the 8 cities were worried that their interests would be damaged, Yifeng's many years of administrative skills were immediately displayed. He pacified the cities and issued many beneficial policies. Although the citizens of the 8 cities were not completely loyal to the Dajin Empire, at least they were not against the Dajin Empire. Chapter 643. In the imperial court, reports of victory kept coming in, and the officials were praising them. Yin Chuan, on the other hand, was exceptionally solemn, because Yin Chuan understood. The Great Winged Heaven School could no longer sit back and do nothing. Out of the 100 sects, 35 had already been destroyed by now. As expected, at the main hall of the Great Winged Heaven School, dozens of sect leaders gathered in the main hall. Perfected cultivator, if we don't take action now, the Great Jin dynasty will become more and more powerful, the sect leaders said in horror. Shinkuin Kuroha held a declaration in his hand. It was a declaration written by Yifeng before the Great Jin dynasty sent out their troops. The declaration had spread everywhere. Yin Chuan, Shinkuin Kuroha's eyes turned cold. Perfected cultivator, because the declaration clearly states that the Great Jin dynasty sent out their troops to seek revenge. The surrounding sects are unwilling to participate. Otherwise, they would have been unable to move an inch if they had instigated them. A sect leader frowned and said, Perfected cultivator, the army we recruited is useless. We are the sects and they're the imperial court. War is their strength. Another sect leader said anxiously, Shinkuin Kuroha, we must seek revenge. It's not about revenge anymore. Shinkuin Kuroha, if we sit back and do nothing, the army will force their way to the Great Winged Heaven School sooner or later. When all of our sects are destroyed, the army will gather at the Great Winged Heaven School. The Great Jin dynasty is determined to win. The sect leaders were anxious. Shinkuin Kuroha narrowed his eyes and took a deep breath. We can't sit back and do nothing anymore. Since everyone is determined, let's destroy the Great Jin army together. How? Shinkuin Kuroha said coldly, Great Jun is the imperial court's way of doing things, but we have our sect's way of doing things. Gather all the disciples above the Qi Jing realm and eliminate Hua Guang's army first. Our sects can gather about 30,000 Qi state disciples. A sect leader said with certainty. My great winged heaven school's Qi state disciples, 20,000. Shinkankroha made up his mind. 50,000 Qi realm? Everyone was shocked by this power. What did 50,000 Qi Jing mean? Huaguang had 400,000 soldiers, but most of them were at the Essence State. There were no more than 1,000 of them at the Qi State. But this time, the Alliance was able to gather 50,000 Qi State warriors. 50,000 Qi Jing? Destroying Huaguang and Yinjing will be a piece of cake. Everyone's faces lit up with excitement. Shinkuin Kuroha's eyes flashed with a cold light. Not only that, tell your disciples to invite as many Qi realm cultivators as possible. Even if only one Qi realm cultivator joins us, our team will be doubled. 100,000 Qi state warriors? Instantly, all the sect leaders felt their heads heat up. That's right, even if each of them only found one friend, and some of them even had a wide circle of friends, they would not only find one friend. The thought of having at least 100,000 Qi state warriors made all the sect leaders eager to join the alliance. Great Jin Dynasty? Humph! Shinkuin Kuroha's face contorted in anger. Great Jin Dynasty, Yinjing. In the study room, this was Yin Chuan's study room. Yin Chuan sat behind his desk with a book in his hand. He looked at Lu Gang, who was standing respectfully. Your Majesty, the Baihu of the East Province have sent a message. The Great Winged Heaven School and its affiliated sects are about to launch a counterattack. Their Qi State disciples are also inviting friends. Although they are doing it discreetly, their intentions are obvious. Lu Gang said. Yin Chuan put down the book in his hand. A light flashed in his eyes as a cold smile appeared on his face. Chapter 644. Shinkuin Kuroha ordered the 65 sects and the Great Winged Heaven School to send out 50,000 Qi State disciples. The number of Qi State disciples increased from 50,000 to 140,000 in a blink of an eye. 140,000 Qi State disciples were stationed at a sect called the Sanyuan sect. The Sanyuan sect was a vassal sect of the Great Winged Heaven School. It was an inferior sect. There were almost 10,000 disciples in the sect, but most of them were at the Essence State. They had never seen so many Qi State disciples. In the main hall of the Sanyuan sect, Shinkuin Kuroha was in high spirits. The 65 sect leaders greeted Shinkuin Kuroha respectfully. Perfected Cultivator, 140,000 Qi State disciples, 750 Immortal State disciples, and 18 lower Ethereal State disciples. Perfected Cultivator, with such a powerful force, we can destroy any inferior sect except for the middle sections. A sect leader said excitedly. Perfected Cultivator, why don't we just attack Yinjin? Attack Yinjin? Once Yinjin was destroyed, the Great Qin dynasty would crumble. However, Shinkuin Kuroha still remembered the scene that day. Dao Lord Yu? Shinkuin Kuroha was worried about Dao Lord Yu. Therefore, Yinjin was not their first choice. No need. Let's avenge the fallen sects first. Shinkuin Kuroha said. Yes. Everyone nodded. True Lord, Huaguang's army has already reached 600,000. Moreover, Huaguang's deployment of troops seems to have become more and more cautious. The 600,000 troops are all attacking the same place, and no longer splitting up. According to Huaguang's army's route, the Sanyuan sect will be their next target. Another sect leader said, we are waiting for him here. Humph. 600,000? Heh. Let's wipe them out this time. Shinkagoha said coldly. Yes. Everyone replied confidently. Shinkin Kuroha's eyes turned cold. After destroying the 600,000 strong army, we will encircle the cities one by one and take back all the major cities. When the time comes, we'll let Yin Chuan guard Yinjing alone. Let's see how long he can last. Ha ha ha, true Lord is wise. The group of sect masters said excitedly. Report. A Shioja flew into the main hall. Everyone looked at the disciple who flew into the main hall. Reporting to Master, we might have been discovered by Huaguang. The disciple frowned. Oh! Shinkuin Kuroha narrowed his eyes. This disciple brought a large number of Qi Jing brothers to search for the whereabouts of Huoguang's army. In the end, we captured one of Huoguang's scouts. The disciple said, Scout? Yes. This disciple pried open that scout's mouth and found out that Huoguang had suddenly retreated for some reason. Moreover, he left in a hurry. The disciple said with an unpleasant expression. Phew! Shinken Kuroha stood up abruptly. It seems that our whereabouts have indeed been discovered by the enemy. Shinkuin Kuroha's expression changed. However, this disciple managed to pry open that scout's mouth and interrogate him about Huoguang's escape route. We chased them all the way to the sect and finally found them, the disciple said with a smile. Good. Shinkuin Kuroha praised. Huoguang's 600,000-strong army retreated to the Dark North capital. The disciple said respectfully. Dark North capital? Shinkuin Kuroha's expression changed. That's the sect that the Green River sect used to control. After the Green River sect was destroyed and taken over by the Great Jun, the city is extremely sturdy. One of the sect masters recalled. Dark North capital? Ha ha ha. So what if it's the Dark North capital? Not to mention us emptiness realm experts. Even the Qi Jing disciples would be able to destroy it in an instant. We have 140,000 Qi Jing disciples. Huoguang won't be able to escape, one of the sect masters said solemnly. Chapter 645. Perfected Cultivator. Now that we have found the 600,000 soldiers, we don't have to wait anymore. Perfected Cultivator, let's go. A sect leader said excitedly. All right, inform everyone that we will destroy the Dark North capital. Shinkuin Kuroha said excitedly. Yes. Everyone shouted. Dark North capital, City Lord's Mansion. On the floating island. Yin Chuan stood at the edge of the floating island, overlooking the entire city. Mou she stood beside him, while Qing Long and the other three stood not far away. Actually, you didn't have to come. The battlefield is constantly changing. Yin Chuan said to Mou Shi. I had nothing to do anyway. Didn't you say that you wanted me to see how the Great Jin dynasty would rise? Of course, I had to come. Your Sea of Providence has indeed increased a lot of providence. Mou Shi exclaimed in admiration. Ha! That little bit of providence is considered an increase? These are all sects under the Great Winged Heaven School. Every time a sect is destroyed, their merit will flow back to the Great Winged Heaven School. Otherwise, our providence would have increased by more than 2 times. Yin Chuan said confidently. Ah, really? Mou she exclaimed. Yes. Yin Chuan nodded affirmatively. Then I have to witness everything. You moved the 2 million citizens of the Dark North capital just for this day? Mou she looked at Yin Chuan. 2 million? Indeed, it took a lot of effort to move these 2 million citizens. Not only did we have to move them, but we also had to keep them under surveillance to prevent them from leaking the information. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Surveillance? It's only temporary. After all, the human heart is unpredictable. Who can guarantee that our plan won't be leaked? Fortunately, most of the 2 million citizens are still cooperative. At most, only 100,000 of them have the intention to leave. The East faction has been fully monitored. This time, nothing will go wrong, Yin Chuan said with a smile. Nothing will go wrong? They have over 100,000 Qi realm cultivators. Mou she said worriedly. I know, Yin Chuan said confidently. At this moment, Yifeng and Huoguang flew up one after another. Your Majesty, I've found out that Shinkuin Kuroha's army is stationed at Sanyuan sect. I think they should be heading here now, Huoguang said with a smile. Good. Yifeng? Yin Chuan looked at Yifeng. Rest assured, Your Majesty, I have already surveyed the terrain around the Dark North capital. The 600,000 soldiers of the 1st Legion will be divided into 10 routes. I have calculated how to take each route, how to split up, and the time spent. Next, it's up to you, Lord Hua, Yifeng said with certainty. Don't worry, Your Majesty. Lord Yi, don't worry. My 600,000 soldiers will not disappoint Your Majesty. Huoguang said confidently. Everything has been calculated. We are waiting for Your Majesty's orders. Yifeng said confidently. Good, let's begin. Yin Chuan said, Yes, your majesty. Hua Guang flew down from the floating island, while Yifeng stayed on the floating island. After all, Yifeng's cultivation was not high. Qing Long, Bai Long, Rose Finch, Xuanwu. The four of you will be responsible for Yifeng's safety. Yin Chuan ordered. Yes, your majesty. The four of them replied. Suddenly, an arrow shot out from the top of the dark north capital's southern wall. Whoosh! The arrow shot into a mountain peak in the distance. Boom! The mountain peak exploded into pieces of rubble. About 20 figures shot out from the rubble. Oh no, we've been discovered. The 20 figures' faces changed. They were all scouts from the Great Winged Heaven School. Hua Guang discovered us? Chapter 646. Wait! Don't move. Our men will be here soon. The sentries tried to suppress their fear. Just as everyone was trying to suppress their fear, someone shouted, Look, the dark capital is shrouded in fog. What a thick fog. Is that the formation that covers the dark capital has been activated? Hua Guang is going to activate the formation to defend the city. The sentries immediately realized what was going on. So what if we defend the city? 600,000 soldiers? We're going to be wiped out. One of the sentries sneered. Ah, Hua Guang, he's coming out? Another sentry shouted. He's coming for us? Quick, spread out and hide. The sentries were terrified. Just as the sentries were about to hide, they saw Hua Guang coming out from the south gate. He frowned and looked at the sentries, but he did not pay any attention to them. He was waiting for the 600,000 soldiers to come out. As soon as the 600,000 soldiers came out, Hua Guang immediately gave a series of orders. In the blink of an eye, the 600,000 soldiers split into 10 groups and fled in 10 different directions. Rumble! The 600,000-strong army quickly rushed forward, disappearing into the forest in the blink of an eye. Oh no! Hua Guang knows that he is stronger than us. He is running away. Split into 10 groups? Split up and escape? The sentries were shocked. What should we do? Split up and follow him. Leave marks on the way. We will wait here for the faction leader. One of the sentries said. Okay. The sentries immediately split up. After about a day, Shinkuin Kuroha led 140,000 Qijing soldiers and rushed out of the dark capital. What did you say? Hua Guang split up into 10 groups? Shinkuin Kuroha's face changed. Master, it is true. However, we have sent men to follow him. All of them are Qijing soldiers. We will not lose track of him. We have left marks on the way. A Qijing soldier said respectfully. Shinkuin Kuroha looked at the foggy dark capital and was unwilling to give up. Split into 10 groups? Everyone, even if we split into 10 groups, Hua Guang's army would still die. Let's take revenge for the sections. We have 140,000 Qi Realm warriors, so even if there are 14,000 Qi Realm warriors in each group, we can still kill 60,000 elite realm warriors in each group. Kill all of Hua Guang's army, Shinkuin Kuroha ordered. As you command, all the sect masters shouted. Mark proficiency, lead the way, Shinkuin Kuroha said. Yes, sir. The group of sentries replied. Boom! 140,000 Qi Realm cultivators, divided into 10 groups, arrived at the dark capital but didn't enter. If he had known that Yin Chuan was inside, Shinkuin Kuroha would have been pounding his chest and stamping his feet in regret. Of course, it was too late for regrets. They split up into 10 groups, and the routes had already been planned. Another day passed, and the First Legion returned to the dark North City. Quick, enter the city, one of the generals shouted in fear. The general didn't even have time to close the city gates. Behind him, a sword ray shot out and exploded on the city gates. Ah! The group of soldiers fled into the fog-filled dark capital. 14,000 cultivators quickly flew out of the forest outside the nether capital. It was Shinkuin Kuroha's group. Sect Master Zhang, we are back. Sect Master Wang, the army has entered the dark capital. What should we do now? What are you afraid of? We have 14,000 Qi Realm warriors and Emptiness Realm warriors. We can wipe out 600,000 soldiers. Now that we have 60,000 soldiers, what are we afraid of? They are dead for sure, since they have returned. None of them can leave. That's right. Let's go in. With great confidence, the group of sect leaders instantly rushed into the fog-filled dark north capital. Half a day later, the First Legion returned to the dark capital from the East City Gate. Some of the soldiers were injured, and they were chased by a large number of Chi realm warriors. They escaped into the city. We finally caught up with them. They escaped from the bottom of the river. We almost lost them, and now they are back. None of them will survive. Let's enter the city together, one of the sect masters said excitedly. Yes. Chapter 647. 14,000 Chi state cultivators rushed into the foggy nether capital. What a thick fog. Where are they? Where are the elite state cultivators? Sect leader, I can't see them clearly. There is something strange about the grand array. The Chi state cultivators hesitated, including the sect leaders. Over there. They're over there. An emptiness realm expert spotted the Great Jun army. Don't worry. Even if there is an ambush, Elder Zhang will be able to break through the grand array. Let's go after them, one of the sect leaders said coldly. Go after them? They're already here. Do you still want to go after them? A cold voice sounded. Everyone's face fell. Blood! Immediately, someone cried out in alarm. The ground beneath their feet was suddenly covered in blood. In a blink of an eye, the ground had turned into a pool of blood. The fog around them slowly dissipated. Slowly, everyone saw the voice that had spoken just now. Yin Chuan? Someone shouted. What happened to him? All the cultivators looked at Yin Chuan in shock. The ground was covered in blood. Yin Chuan stood on top of the sea of blood. His red hair reached his waist. His eyes were red, his hands were clawed, and his lips curled into a sinister smile. Yin Chuan was surrounded by a sea of blood. It was as though Yin Chuan was in control of this sea of blood. Violent waves of blood soared into the sky, making Yin Chuan look like a sea devil. Yin Chuan? He is alone. Kill him. Kill him. If Yin Chuan dies, the Great Jin Empire will be destroyed. Yin Chuan is here to die. The cultivators were excited. Only the sect leaders had a bad feeling about the situation. Tens of thousands of swords were unleashed by the Chi realm cultivators. Even if Yin Chuan used his super divine abilities, he could only run away from them. Boom! The sea of blood collided with the 10,000 swords. Yin Chuan immediately retreated to one side. Kill! Yin Chuan is nothing more than this. Kill! Everyone excitedly rushed towards Yin Chuan. As for Yin Chuan, it was as if he was truly on the run. He hid everywhere until a sect leader suddenly realized that something was amiss. Elder, Yin Chuan is coming for you, the sect leader suddenly exclaimed. Unfortunately, it was already too late. Yin Chuan had already charged in front of the emptiness realm expert. Boom! Suddenly, a vast amount of sword chi exploded in front of the lower abyssal realm expert. The Jade Emperor's sword appeared and formed the Jade Emperor's sword array. With a bang, the lower void stage expert was trapped in the center. The emptiness realm expert exclaimed. Rumble! In the blink of an eye, the lower void stage cultivator in the sword formation was killed by the Jade Emperor's sword formation. The expressions of countless cultivators in the surroundings changed. You! A sect leader exclaimed. Yin Chuan turned his head and looked at the sect leader with an evil smile. Rumble! Suddenly, the Jade Emperor's sword array expanded rapidly. An endless amount of sword chi exploded and became bigger and bigger. In the blink of an eye, the sword chi covered the entire sea of blood. Why? Why did you only activate the sword array now? A sect leader exclaimed in confusion. As the Jade Emperor's sword array expands, its power will decrease. If I had activated the Jade Emperor's sword array at the beginning, the lower void stage expert would have been able to escape. However, you don't have to worry now. Enjoy my blood, see Jade Emperor's sword array. Roar! Yin Chuan sneered. Rumble! Chapter 648. Yin Chuan changed his plan of escaping and started to counterattack. The Jade Emperor's sword formation was like a tornado that swept away all the Chi realm warriors. Impossible! Help! I know. Your Blood Sea Jade Emperor Sword formation can't contain 140,000 Chi Realm cultivators. 14,000 Chi Realm cultivators are already close to your limit. That's why you split your forces. You did it on purpose. Yin Chuan looked at him and said, "Smart, but it's too late." Boom! The blood sea surged with waves. Countless blood swords shot up into the sky and washed over the 14,000 Chi Realm cultivators. Countless blood swords rained down from the sky, cleansing everything. Once someone was injured and fell into the blood sea, they would be sucked into it and disappear. Once they entered the blood sea, they would never come out again. Kaboom! The Blood Sea Jade Emperor's sword array combined with the Jade Emperor's sword array. Yin Chuan performed a massacre in the Azura Blood Sea. The Jade Emperor's sword had turned blood red. The Jade Emperor's sword absorbed all the blood of those who were killed. Then, the Jade Emperor's sword split a portion of the blood and infused it into Yin Chuan's body. In the Blood Sea, Yin Chuan's body was surrounded by explosions. Boom! 7th rank Chi Realm? I love this feeling. Ah! Super Yin Chuan laughed excitedly. Yin Chuan became more and more arrogant after using the super divine skill. Kill! 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 The Jade Emperor's sword formation's massacre was extremely terrifying. Round after round, it was extremely bloody. No, break the array and get out. The sect leaders shouted in fear. If the Abyssal Realm cultivator was still alive, you would have a chance to escape. But now that he is dead, you Immortal State cultivators will never be able to escape. The Blood Sea is endless. Enjoy your last moments. Haha! Yin Chuan laughed excitedly. Kill! 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 Corpses were strewn all over the place. The horrifying attack only lasted for 4 hours. 4 hours later, the last sect leader died under the Blood Sea Jade Emperor's sword formation with great reluctance. Boom! Once the Sea of Blood was retracted, the Jade Emperor's sword formation was also retracted. Suddenly, everything returned to normal, leaving behind a large number of bloodless corpses. Other than the Sea of Blood controlled by Yin Chuan, the blood of these cultivators had all been extracted by the Jade Emperor's sword. Yin Chuan stood in front of the corpse mountain. The army that had led the Xiozha into the city rushed over again. Greetings, Your Majesty. Long live Your Majesty. The soldiers knelt on one knee. Clean up these corpses. More people will come soon, Yin Chuan shouted. Understood. The army quickly cleaned up the corpses. On the other hand, Yin Chuan went straight to the north gate because he knew that there would be another 14,000 Qi Jing cultivators coming into the city. Swish! Yin Chuan left, leaving behind a group of shocked officers and soldiers. Your Majesty is so powerful. These are all Qi Jing cultivators. 14,000 Qi Jing cultivators, many Immortal State cultivators, and even some Emptiness Realm cultivators. Great Jin? I am a soldier of Great Jin. I am Your Majesty's subject. The officers and soldiers were excitedly cleaning up the corpses. Although they came to Great Jin because of the spiritual stones, who wouldn't want to follow a peerless master? Not to mention the war that established the country. That battle was beyond their knowledge. But this battle was something that they could touch, and they were shocked because of it. Chapter 649. 14,000 Qi Realm cultivators were wiped out in just a few hours? Don't just stand there. Get to work. A general shouted. Yes. The soldiers quickly cleaned up the mess. Blood Sea Jade Emperor sword formation, Super Yin Chuan, ran through the 4 gates. Along the way, the cultivators were killed without them knowing. Although the cultivators were strong and intelligent, this was the first time they saw the art of war being used in the cultivation world. Many of them were slow to react. Perhaps, after this battle, many cultivators would understand everything in the future, so much so that they could infer many things from one example. However, at this moment, the martial arts of the mortal world that they looked down upon were displayed in front of the cultivators for the first time. Perhaps if they were slow for a while, they would be able to sense the ambush as soon as they entered the dark capital. But time after time, they were always slow by a little bit. But it was this slow pace that pushed the cultivators into the abyss of death. Super Yin Chuan, second form, under the Jade Emperor's sword formation, slaughtered the cultivators. Yin Chuan's cultivation also increased rapidly as the Jade Emperor's sword formation grew. From the beginning of the battle to the 5th stage of the Qi realm, 6th stage of the Qi realm, 7th stage of the Qi realm, 8th stage of the Qi realm, the crazy slaughter did not make Yin Chuan tired at all. Instead, he became more energetic and his cultivation increased by leaps and bounds. The time it took to kill the 4 Qi realm cultivators became shorter and shorter. From the beginning, it took him 4 hours to the last 2 hours. As Yin Chuan's strength increased, so did the Jade Emperor's sword formation. The 9 armies entered the dark capital one after another. Boom! When the 9th army was completely wiped out, Yin Chuan officially broke through to the 9th stage of the Qi realm. 9th stage of the Qi realm? Yin Chuan stepped on the mountain of corpses and felt satisfied. Wong! Yin Chuan's long hair suddenly receded and his eyes returned to normal. 1 day's time was up. The super theurgy could only be used for 1 day. The next time it could be used would be a month later. At this moment, his body was still weak. Long live his majesty! Long live his majesty! Long live his majesty! He reached out and grabbed the blood-red Jade Emperor sword. Yin Chuan nodded. He met up with Yifeng and Mo Yushi and arrived at the South City Gate. Prince Yin, no, Emperor Yin, was I dreaming just now? Qing Long asked in disbelief. Hundreds of thousands of soldiers brought the corpses of Qi State and Immortal State warriors to the south of the city. They all looked up at the city walls excitedly. More than 100,000 Qi State warriors were all killed by you in 1 day. Mo Yushi exclaimed. It's not the first time. Yin Chuan laughed. Not the first time? Are you talking about the incident at the Demon Wind Mountain Range? You killed 6,000 disciples of the Life League when you were only in the Essence Realm? But that can't be compared to now. Mo Yushi exclaimed. When I was in the Essence State, most of the people I killed were in the Essence State. Now that I am in the Qi State, I only killed a few Immortal State and Abyssal State warriors. Most of them were at the same level as me. Yin Chuan laughed. Same level? But no one kills like you do. Others only challenge 1 or 2 people. You, on the other hand, kill 6,000 at once. Now, you're even better. You're killing more than 120,000 at once. You killed more than 120,000 of them? Mo Yushi rolled her eyes and didn't know what to say. Throughout history, there were many powerful cultivators who slaughtered entire cities, but none of them could compare with Yin Chuan. He killed more than 100,000 of them in 1 day. Mo Yushi was speechless. Of course, she admired Chun Fan even more. Chapter 650. Atlas Studios Yin Chuan brought Mo Yushi, Yifeng, and the rest to the top of the southern city gate tower. They looked towards the south and waited for the last army to return. The Great Jin Empire already has more than 20 tiger demons coming from all directions. Why don't we use them? Mo Yushi asked curiously. Use them? The tiger race can't use them now. Yin Chuan smiled. Why? Bai Detian's heart is not set yet. Yin Chuan took a deep breath. Didn't he help you block Mohina Dojin? He even rejected Dao, Lord Yu's invitation, and my great revelation, Holy Land's invitation? Mo Yushi frowned. Yes, but that doesn't mean that the tiger race has to work with the Great Jin Empire wholeheartedly. The tiger race can leave the Great Jin Empire at any time. Yin Chuan took a deep breath. Why is it like this? Didn't Bai Detian agree to it? Mo Yushi asked with a frown. How should I look at it? For the future of the tiger race, anyone can break an agreement. Bai Detian is already 80% willing to work with the Great Jin Empire, but he is still 20% hesitant. I can understand that. If it were me, I would think the same. Yin Chuan took a deep breath. Then he won't come out? Bai Detian is actually taking a big gamble. He is gambling on the tiger race's future. If I don't give him enough confidence, how can he put all his eggs in one basket? If I am so weak that I can't even deal with the Great Winged Heaven School, how can I make Bai Detian believe that I can bring glory to the tiger race? How can the tiger race be willing to put all their eggs in one basket and tie themselves to the great Jin Empire. Yin Chuan smiled. Mou, she seemed to understand. Don't worry. Once I settle the Great Winged Heaven School, the tiger race will be under my command. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Bai Ditian is a cautious person. Mou, she nodded. It's not about being cautious. Bai Ditian is an extremely intelligent person. The rise of the tiger race in his hands is inevitable. Yin Chuan said with certainty. Just as Yin Chuan and Mou she were talking, Qing Long suddenly spoke up. Holy Maiden, Hades Emperor, look, they're here. Qing Long's eyes lit up. In the distance, a large number of soldiers rushed over from the forest. Rumbling sounds could be heard coming from the valley. Quick, let's go into the dark capital. I will stop them quick. It was Huaguang's roar. Yes, my lord. Countless grateful voices came from the valley. During a battle, he would charge at the front and stay at the back. Who wouldn't respect such a commander? Although he wasn't as meticulous as Yifeng, Huaguang was able to nurture the feelings of the soldiers. Yifeng might be much better at strategizing than Huaguang, but Huaguang could make the soldiers willingly die for him. This was something that Yifeng couldn't do. The army quickly retreated towards the dark capital. Roar! Boom! Boom! In the sky, two figures surrounded and attacked Huaguang, who was holding a spear. Take the tunnel? Walk to the bottom of the lake? Walk through the forest? Walk through the swamp? Huaguang, your army can really hide? However, we finally caught up to you. Ha! Arrogant laughter came from behind. On the southern city gate tower, Yifeng heaved a sigh of relief. A hint of joy appeared on his face. Yifeng, you calculated well. The enemy caught up to the 10 armies when they reached the dark capital. Yin Chuan said with satisfaction. The main thing is that I have walked through the surrounding terrain and had Zhou Jiansheng and the others personally measure it. Yifeng laughed. Our emperor? That's our emperor. Quick, enter the city. The escaping soldiers immediately saw Yin Chuan on the southern city gate tower. Chapter 651. A group of soldiers ran toward the dark capital excitedly. At this moment, there were only slightly more than 40,000 soldiers left. Clearly, during these 2 to 3 days of fleeing, some had died under the swords of the sex cultivators. Boom! Huaguang pushed aside a lower void realm cultivator. His body was covered in wounds as he quickly flew towards the dark capital city. The 2 void realm cultivators who were chasing after Huaguang suddenly narrowed their eyes and stopped. They saw Yin Chuan on the top floor of the southern city tower. Yin Chuan? Why is he here? The dark capital? Is he back? The 2 void realm cultivators couldn't make up their minds. The army quickly entered the city. Your Majesty, I didn't let you down, Huaguang said excitedly. Well done, Yin Chuan praised. Thank you, Your Majesty, Huaguang said with a smile. Yin Chuan turned his head and looked toward the south where more and more cultivators were gathering. More and more cultivators were gathering. This time was different from the previous 9 times. The previous 9 times, the cultivators were slow to react because there was no one around. However, this time was different. Yin Chuan suddenly appeared. This shouldn't be happening. Why is he here? Any cultivator with a brain immediately realized that something was wrong. No one dared to risk their lives. Instead, they waited for the other cultivators to arrive. After 2 hours, all 14,000 Qi realm cultivators finally arrived, including Shinkuan Kuroha. Shinkuan Kuroha stood at the head of the group and narrowed his eyes. Yin Chuan, how dare you leave Yinjin? Shinkuan Kuroha said coldly. Why wouldn't I? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Ha! I can't do anything to you in Yinjin, but here there is no golden dragon. Let's see where you can run to, Shinkuan Kuroha said with a dark face. Shinkuan Kuroha was excited. The golden dragon of Yinjin was his nightmare. And now, Yin Chuan was here? Shinkuan Kuroha knew that Yin Chuan was still in the Qi state. Qi state? No matter how strong he was, could he be stronger than Huaguang? He could finally get rid of the scourge he left behind in the past. Run? Why should I run? On the other hand, do you think you could do anything to my million-strong army? Yin Chuan sneered. Army? Ah, You don't have that kind of army. Even if you do, so what? I have 14,000 cheesesteak cultivators here. Soon, I will have another 120,000. Shinku and Kuroha shouted excitedly. But halfway through, Yin Chuan waved his hand. Bang! Suddenly, corpses were thrown out of the dark capital. Ah! Sect leader Zhang. Ah! Sect leader Li. How is that possible? That is the sect leader of the Sanyuan sect. Jiahu was heard around Shinku and Kuroha. Corpses were thrown out one after another, and everyone felt as if a bucket of cold water had been poured over their heads. Whoosh! Whoosh! The bucket of cold water continued to pour over them. Corpses were thrown out one after another. Many of them were recognized by everyone. 100, 1,000, 10,000, 120,000. Outside the dark capital, Shinku and Kuroha felt that his hands and feet were cold. Were these the sect leaders of the 10 armies? Impossible! Impossible! Shinku and Kuroha was filled with grief and hatred. He reached out and grabbed, and a suction force pulled a cultivator over. It's really, junior brother, it's really you, Shinku and Kuroha said with a pale face. More than 100,000 corpses. Not to mention fighting. Just looking at these corpses, the Shioja that followed behind Black Feather Jinjuan all showed horrified expressions. For days ago, these cultivators had been communicating with each other. It had only been 4 days, and they were all dead. Moreover, there was no blood on these corpses. Their blood was drawn. Chapter 652. 14,000 Qi Jing cultivators. Many of them had never seen such a bloody scene. The ground was littered with broken limbs and heads. Most of them belonged to the people they had interacted with in the past. These people were all against Yin Chuan and wanted to kill Yin Chuan. But now, they were all dead? Hundreds of thousands of cultivators in the Qi state were all dead? Should they still kill Yin Chuan? Should they follow in their footsteps? Their legs were trembling and their bodies were trembling. Fellow cultivator Ma, I'm out of the battle against the Great Zhun Alliance. Fellow cultivator Zhao, I'm sorry, I have to go back. Fellow cultivator Chun, I suddenly remembered that I forgot to turn off the fire in the furnace at home. I have to go back now. Fellow cultivator Li, I'm sorry, my wife is about to give birth. I have to go back to see her. Fellow cultivator Wang, I remember that my third uncle's funeral will be held soon. I have to go back as soon as possible. One by one, the sounds of people retreating spread like a plague. The Qi State disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School invited their friends to join them. They were just here to join in the fun and build a good relationship with the Great Winged Heaven School. However, no one said that this was a dead end. Hundreds of thousands of cultivators had already died. If they stayed, they would die. Go! Go! Amidst the panic, his friends scattered in all directions without any sense of loyalty. These people were not disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School and its affiliated sections. They could come and go as they pleased. Naturally, they did not want to get involved in this mess. Bang! In the blink of an eye, only 5,000 cultivators were left. Shinku and Kuroha's face darkened. It was not that the 5,000 cultivators dared to fight against Yin Chuan, but that they were all disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School. If the sect leader did not leave, the 5,000 cultivators could not move. If Shinku and Kuroha was not here, the cultivators would have run away. Fight? What's the point of fighting? It had only been a few days, and those people were all dead. They were all dead. That was not the point. The point was that none of them escaped. Why didn't any of them escape? This doesn't make sense. It shouldn't be. Because it didn't make sense, it was even scarier. It was not Yin Chuan who was standing on the southern city tower, but a peerless demon. Shinku and Kuroha, victory is in your grasp. You sent away a portion of your disciples. Do you think you can raise my dark north capital to the ground with just 5,000 disciples? On the city tower, Yin Chuan laughed. At this moment, Shinku and Kuroha was looking at Yin Chuan smile with contempt. Moss Master! A disciple behind Shinku and Kuroha cried out in horror. They were afraid that Shinku and Kuroha would really order them to charge forward. Looking at his frightened disciples, Shinku and Kuroha smiled bitterly. Let's go! Shinku and Kuroha shouted. Let's go! The 5,000 disciples immediately shouted. She had never been so excited about escaping. Whoosh! The disciples were already frightened by the mountains and seas of corpses. At this moment, they hated their parents for not giving them 2 more legs to run for their lives. Your Majesty, I will send the army to chase after them, Huoguang said excitedly. No need. Yin Chuan shook his head. Don't chase after a desperate enemy. After all, they are all above the Qi state. Even if we stop them, we will suffer heavy losses. Moreover, Shinku and Kuroha and the others are not ready to die yet. Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. Your Majesty, you have considered everything. If we can bring these 5,000 people back, they will be terrified. Fear is a terrible thing. It can make people lose their will to fight. It can make everything go smoothly for us, Yifeng said with a smile. Most importantly, the overlord of the Great Winged Heaven School, Shinku and Kuroha, is a mediocre person. Why should we let them replace him with a capable person? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Chapter 653. Watching Shinku and Kuroha escape, Yin Chuan narrowed his eyes. The encirclement of Dejun could be said to have been a complete annihilation. Dejun had obtained a complete victory. Huoguang, Yifeng, and the others all had a trace of joy on their faces. Huoguang, Yin Chuan said in a low voice. This subject is here. Shinku and Kuroha has suffered a great defeat this time, and all the affiliated sects have suffered heavy losses. After you rest for a day, use the fastest speed to completely destroy all 65 sects. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. Yes, Huoguang replied. The affiliated sects will definitely have no power to resist. Huoguang will sweep away everything in his path. Yifeng, you are in charge of dealing with the major cities. Quickly, Yin Chuan ordered again. Yes, Yifeng replied. Do you really plan to attack the Great Winged Heaven School now? Mou, she asked worriedly. Is the Great Winged Heaven School very big? Yin Chuan smiled. Mou, she shook her head and said, the Great Winged Heaven School, don't think that the middle-level sects are weak. Just take the Great Winged Heaven School, for example. Do you know? These affiliated sects to the Great Winged Heaven School are just icing on the cake. How much do you know? Yin Chuan asked curiously. The Great Winged Heaven School has 2 Middle Void Stage Elders. Mou, she said solemnly. 2 Middle Void Stage Elders? Yin Chuan frowned. One is the former sect master of the Great Winged Heaven School, True Monarch Whitefeather. Later on, he was no match for Heavenly Prince Emoku, so he automatically withdrew from the position of sect master and gave the position to Shinku and Kuroha. True Monarch Whitefeather is at the 3rd level of the Middle Void Stage. Mou, she said. 3rd level of the Middle Void Stage? Yin Chuan frowned. Yin Chuan currently had 2 methods of victory. One was the Jade Emperor's Sword Formation. 2 was the Golden Dragon of Karmic Luck. The Jade Emperor's Sword Formation was able to wisp Monarch Whitefeather of the Great Winged Heaven Sword Formation was because Gu Holy Sun didn't have any magic treasure. If he had a magic treasure, he would Sun Woods. And, however, the Great Feather Heavenly Sect had a history of several thousand years. As far as Yin Chuan knew, they had 5 quasi-immortal artifacts. True Monarch, 3rd level of the Middle Void Stage. The Jade Emperor's Sword Formation should be able to deal with it. Although the Super Divine ability allowed Yin Chuan's strength to skyrocket, Yin Chuan's current cultivation was too low. Even if it skyrocketed, it would only be icing on the cake. For example, why did he rush to kill the lower Void Stage Elders when he slaughtered the 120,000 Qi Realm Elders? Even the Blood Sea formed by the Super Divine ability couldn't trap the lower Void Stage Elders for too long, let alone Middle Void Stage Elders. With the Jade Emperor's Sword Formation, Yin Chuan could barely fight True Monarch Whitefeather alone. Of course, the Golden Dragon of Karmic Luck was stronger. The Golden Dragon of Karmic Luck was equivalent to the 4th level of the Middle Void Stage. If he wanted to defeat True Monarch Whitefeather, he could only do it in Beijing. Moreover, True Monarch Whitefeather could mobilize the virtue energy near the Great Winged Heaven School, and his strength was even stronger. Yin Chuan wasn't his match. What about the other middle void stage elder? Yin Chuan asked. Ordinary people don't know about the other one. Even the people inside the Great Winged Heaven School don't know. They only know that when the Great Winged Heaven School is on the brink of destruction, an elder will come out of seclusion and turn the tide every time. She smiled bitterly. Oh, I think I heard about it when I was collecting information, but I don't know who it is. Ifeng frowned. She smiled bitterly and said, he's the founder of the Great Winged Heaven School, True Monarch Great Feather. Great Winged Heaven School, True Monarch Great Feather? Yin Chuan's expression froze. I don't know how strong True Monarch Great Feather is now, but my father once said that True Monarch Great Feather was at the 5th level of the Middle Void Stage 500 years ago. She smiled bitterly. Chapter 654. He was at the 5th level of the Middle Void Stage 800 years ago, then 500 years later. Hiss! Hua Guang sucked in a cold breath. Yin Chuan's Golden Dragon of Providence was only at the 4th level of the Middle Void Stage. It was no match for True Monarch Great Feather from 500 years ago, let alone the current True Monarch Great Feather. Don't worry. True Monarch Great Feather usually doesn't come out unless the Great Winged Heaven School is in danger. As for True Monarch White Feather, he's not on good terms with Shinkuin Kuroha because he was forced to take over the position of Sect Master, She explained. 2 Middle Void Stage cultivators. Continue, Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. There are almost 300 lower Void Stage disciples, 8,000 Godly Realm disciples, 200,000 Shi Realm disciples, and 4 million Elite Realm disciples. She explained. How many times more than the 100 vassal sects combined? Hua Guang said in surprise. That's a middle-ranked sect. She smiled bitterly. Yin Chuan only managed to kill 120,000 Shi Realm disciples because of a trick. He wouldn't have the chance to do so again. For a million disciples? That's a middle-ranked sect? Actually, the Great Feather Heavenly Sect's power is not limited to this. It also has 100 cities surrounding it. Each city has 2 million cultivators, which means there are 200 million cultivators living in them. These 100 private cities are very supportive of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect. If the Great Feather Heavenly Sect sends troops, these cultivators will even come out to resist, She said worriedly. Even if half of them come out, it's still 100 million cultivators. Ifeng smiled bitterly. The Great Winged Heaven School's army can't fight against the low-level forces. As for the high-level forces, there aren't many experts other than you. She said worriedly. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, war doesn't only depend on these forces. I'll think of a way. Now do as I say. Hua Guang, Ifeng, take down these vassal sects first. Yes. The two of them replied. She didn't say anything and just watched quietly. Although the battle at the Dark Capital was done in secret, the news still spread. The news of the annihilation of hundreds of sects and the massacre of 120,000 Shi Realm cultivators spread like wildfire. The might of the Great Jun Empire quickly spread out in all directions. Such information was on the desks of countless sect masters. Countless sects were curious about the Great Jun dynasty. 3 years later, in the Great Jin dynasty, Yin capital, Chaodian Palace, Yin Chuan sat on the 9 Dragons' heavenly chair and looked down at the 2 rows of officials. Hua Guang and Ifeng stepped out. Your Majesty, after the battle at the Dark Capital, the sects were in a state of panic. Wherever our army went, more than half of the sects were wiped out. Everything went smoothly, and the hundreds of sects were annihilated. Hua Guang said excitedly. In 3 years, 65 sects were annihilated. Even though the core forces of each sect were wiped out, Hua Guang's speed was still shocking. Well done, Yin Chuan said with satisfaction. Your Majesty, after the hundreds of sects were annihilated, the number of immortal cities in the Great Jin dynasty has reached 50. Ifeng said with a smile. Good. Annihilate the sects and pacify the cities. Hua Guang, Ifeng, you have done well? Yin Chuan said with satisfaction. I have already calculated the territories occupied by the Great Jin dynasty. There are 2,300 mortal kingdoms, Yifeng said in a low voice. The Great Jin dynasty can only have one ruler. I am willing to lead the army and trample the 2,300 kingdoms. Huaguang said again. Looking at Huaguang, Yin Chuan nodded and said, "Approved." In the territories occupied by the Great Jin dynasty, there are 20 cities that belong to the surrounding sections. Of these sects, 10 are inferior sects, 20 are unranked sects, and 300 small sects. Yifeng said again. Chapter 655. The hundreds of sects that had been destroyed previously were only affiliated sects of the Great Winged Heaven School. However, there were still many sects gathered around the Great Jin Empire. The imperial court was extremely quiet as they waited for Yin Chuan's orders. There is only one orthodox sect in the Great Jin Empire, and that is the Great Jin Empire. The Great Jin Empire follows the law, and all sects in the territory of the Great Jin Empire are illegal organizations. After conquering the 2,300 mortal kingdoms, immediately attack the sects and expel them from the Great Jin Empire. Yin Chuan said in a low voice. "Yes, Your Majesty." Huaguang straightened his body. "Your Majesty, Shinquin Kuroha has sent an envoy to ask for peace." Yifeng said with a smile. "Oh." Shinquin Kuroha might be the sect master of the Great Winged Heaven School, but he doesn't have enough prestige to mobilize the many experts of the Great Winged Heaven School. Therefore, he wants peace with the Great Jin Empire. Yifeng said with a smile. "Yifeng, you will be in charge of the negotiations. Draw the border." Yin Chuan said with satisfaction. "Yes, Your Majesty." Yifeng said solemnly. "Pass down my orders. In half a year, we will open the imperial examinations and recruit talents from all over the world." Yin Chuan ordered. "Long live Your Majesty." The officials bowed. A few days later, in a large hall in Yanjin, Yin Chuan and Bai Ditian were playing chess. "Have you negotiated with the Great Winged Heaven School?" Bai Ditian said lightly. "Didn't you see the map? The territory of the Great Jin Empire is no weaker than the 100 cities of the Great Winged Heaven School." Yin Chuan said with a smile. "Not weak? You're just sparsely populated, that's all. The power of the Great Winged Heaven School is concentrated in the vicinity of the East China Sea. Although your Great Winged Heaven School is surrounded by your territory, so what? Be it high in strength, core strength, or basic strength, you are far from the Great Winged Heaven School." Bai Ditian continued. "It won't be long. When the Great Jin's territory is united, it will be time for me to send troops to the Great Winged Heaven School." Yin Chuan said in a deep voice. "What are you going to use to fight? Even if we gather all the experts in the Great Jin Empire, we won't be able to defeat the Great Winged Heaven School." Bai Ditian said with a frown. "The outcome is still uncertain. How do you know that I will definitely lose?" Yin Chuan smiled. "Do you need my tiger tribe's help?" Bai Ditian asked with a frown as he stared at Yin Chuan. With a slight smile, Yin Chuan shook his head and said, "I said that your tiger tribe only needs to watch. Even if it's the final battle with perfected Lord Diyu, you only need to watch." Bai Ditian's brows relaxed slightly, but he was still confused. "I don't understand. No matter what, your Great Jin Empire is far superior to the Great Winged Heaven School. Why are you so confident?" With a flip of his hand, Yin Chuan took out 2 superior-grade spirit stones. "Do you know what this is?" Yin Chuan asked with a smile. Bai Ditian frowned slightly, but he still said, "Spirit stones are born from heaven and earth. They contain a large amount of heaven and earth essence chi. They can be used to refine pills, refine artifacts, and set up arrays. Besides eating demonic beast meat, cultivators can also absorb the energy in spirit stones to cultivate. Therefore, spirit stones are precious and have become the world's recognized currency." "You are right. It is a currency. When my Great Jin Empire is unified, I will use this currency to create a legend for you." Yin Chuan smiled. "Currency? Haha, all the spirit stones in your Great Jin Empire can't be compared to the 100 cities that the Great Winged Heaven School is in. The Great Winged Heaven School is much richer than your Great Jin Empire. Who do you want to use this currency to bribe?" Can it shake the colossus that is the great winged heaven school? Bai Detian showed a trace of disbelief. No, they do have a lot of spirit stones, but they don't know how to use them. This world is different from the so-called celestial world that you speak of. The countries in the celestial world are at war with each other. War is no longer limited to human strength. There are also these invisible forces. Take currency, for example. Currency can make people go crazy and change everything. In this world, the sects have yet to understand how scary it is. Yin Chuan smiled. I will use these spirit stones to create a huge tsunami. This tsunami will wash the vast great winged heaven school into a mess. The spirit stones are my army. An army that is crueler and more ferocious than any other army. It will tear apart all the experts for me and destroy the entire great winged heaven school for me. Yin Chuan said confidently. Chapter 656. 12 years later. Yin Capital, the upper study room. Yin Chuan sat behind the desk with a cup of tea in front of him. He gently placed it down and looked at the three people standing in front of him. Hua Guang, who was clad in armor, Yifeng, who was dressed in white, who looked younger and more handsome than ever, and Lu Gang, who was still bald. Hua Guang said excitedly, "This subject rushed back to congratulate your majesty. After 12 years, all the mortal kingdoms in Great Jun have been flattened, and all the sects have been annihilated. We have returned Great Jun to its former glory." Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, "From today onwards, this emperor will bestow upon you the title of War God Marquis of Great Jun. You have worked hard all these years." "It's not hard at all. This subject likes the battlefield. Thank you, your majesty, for bestowing this title," Hua Guang said emotionally. War God Marquis was the most glorious title of Hua Guang's ancestors back in the Yin state. At this moment, even in the current Great Jun, Hua Guang finally had this title once again. This emperor will remember all your achievements. When the Great Winged Heaven School is settled, this emperor will bestow upon you the title of Marquis of Great Jun, Yin Chuan said with certainty. "Yes." Hua Guang nodded. He looked at Yifeng. "Your Majesty, Great Jun now has 60 immortal cities and 126,400 mortal cities. They're already operating normally." Yifeng sighed. This emperor understands. Yifeng's work over the years is no less than Hua Guang's. "You have also worked hard." Yin Chuan nodded. "This subject didn't work hard. Many things were only able to proceed smoothly because of your Majesty's guidance." Yifeng shook his head. "Have you read the Great Collapse Plan that I gave you?" Yin Chuan looked at Yifeng. Taking a deep breath, Yifeng said solemnly, "This subject has already read it. This subject has been in business for many years, but I have never seen such an exquisite text. If this subject didn't read it to the end, it would be hard to believe that everything would be as described in the text. Everyone is like an enemy, and the people's hearts are in chaos. No matter how big the sect is, it will collapse. This is too shocking. Not only have the people lost their minds, under the Great Collapse Plan, everyone is like a bandit, everyone is like a devil. After this battle, the Great Feather Sky sect and the 100 sects will become hell on earth." Yin Chuan said solemnly, "Your Majesty, your Majesty, your Majesty, your Majesty, your Majesty, your Majesty." 12 years ago, after the border between Great Jun and Great Yu was drawn, I gave the order to prohibit trade and close the country. "How is it going?" Yin Chuan asked. "Your Majesty, don't worry. At this moment, your Majesty and your Majesty have not moved," Yifeng said affirmatively. "Well, Hua Guang, you guard the border. Kill anyone who does business with your Majesty," Yin Chuan ordered. "Yes," Hua Guang replied. "Lu Gang? How is the arrangement of the city?" Yin Chuan looked at Lu Gang. "Your Majesty, don't worry. The people of the East faction have already entered one of the cities, and many of them have lived there for more than 10 years. They are completely at your disposal," Lu Gang said affirmatively. "Well, as long as the situation in that city is opened, the other 99 cities will have nothing to worry about." Yin Chuan nodded with satisfaction. Your Majesty, this subject really wants to witness the great collapse plan. Ifong took a deep breath and sighed. Well, you will go with me. There are many complicated things in the beginning, and we need a big coordinator. Yin Chuan nodded with satisfaction. A few months later, at the Great Winged Heaven School. The Great Winged Heaven School was located on the shore of the East Sea. It had more than 4 million disciples and occupied a place on the shore of the East Sea where spiritual energy gathered. On the sea, there were many islands, which were also the abodes of countless disciples of the Great Winged Heaven School. Chapter 657. Yin Chuan brought Miao, Yifeng, Lu Gang, and Mo Yushi to look at the boundless sea in front of them. Countless cultivators were flying around the various islands. A natural barrier. This sea can withstand tens of millions of troops. Yin Chuan sighed. In a few years, this natural barrier will be mine. Yifeng was also extremely satisfied. Although the east-facing sea was isolated and helpless in the east, at least it would not be attacked from all sides. Yin Chuan turned his head and looked at a huge mountain range not far away. Far away from the mountain range, golden light soared into the sky. Endless merits surged endlessly, and a vast sea of merit surged. On the sea of merit, a vast golden crow flapped its wings and looked down at the world. The golden crow of merit was similar to the golden dragon of providence. A colossus. Endless merit shone on the mountain range below. Great Winged Heaven School? Huh. Yin Chuan smiled. You guys came to the Great Winged Heaven School together. Aren't you afraid of being recognized? Mo Yushi smiled. They won't. There are 100 cities around the Great Winged Heaven School, and there are more than 200 million people. How many people will recognize us? Moreover, we won't show our faces. Who would know? Yin Chuan smiled. Your Majesty, today, our Jidong Money Bank will officially open in the first city. Do you want to go back and watch the ceremony? Lu Gang asked. All right. Yin Chuan nodded. Miao? Jidong Money Bank? What's that? Miao was puzzled. That's a place that sends you an endless supply of spirit stones. Yin Chuan smiled. Miao? Miao. Miao immediately became excited. Let's go. I also want to see what you're selling. Mo Yushi smiled. Do you want to know? Yin Chuan smiled. No, I'll just watch. I won't participate. If I know the process and the result too early, it'll be boring. I want to see the entire process. I only know that you've prepared 2 merchant guilds in the first gate. One is the Far East Money Bank, and the other is the #1 merchant guild under heaven. Is there anything else? Mo Yushi asked. No, just these 2. Jidong Qianhang and #1 under the heavens. With just these 2, you can see how I overturned the Great Winged Heaven School. Yin Chuan said with certainty. The opening of the city, a city in the Great Winged Heaven School. The city had a population of 2 million. There were many shops and shioja. Today, a strange shop opened for business in the largest market in the first open city. The sound of firecrackers at the entrance even attracted many practitioners to cast spells to increase the popularity of this shop. The beautiful spells immediately attracted many shioja. Jidong Qian Bank? Qianhang? What kind of shop is this? Why haven't I heard of it before? Yeah. Does it sell money? How can it do this business? Moreover, this Jidong Qian Bank is so big. This shop has rented half a street. What kind of business is this? The onlookers were very curious. However, there were always some who knew the market, such as the people from the Great Jinni's factory. This I know. A man in white said. Oh. Everyone looked at the man in white. Boss Ma? You know? Tell me. Everyone looked at Boss Ma in white. Jidong Qian Bank is a place to deposit money and also a place to borrow money. Boss Ma said, Oh, deposit money? Spirit stones? If I have spirit stones, why would I deposit them with him? Am I stupid? A man in green said. Boss Ma looked at him and knew that he had asked for help. Chapter 658. Boss Ma shook his head and said, I don't know if you're stupid or not, but I'm about to deposit my money. What? Boss Ma? Are you crazy? The onlookers also looked at Boss Ma. Crazy? I'm not crazy. You should know that I've traveled extensively for many years. Jidongqian Bank has a branch in the west, but it has a weird name. Now, it has finally opened a branch in the east. I can deposit my spirit stones there and withdraw them at any time. Moreover, I can withdraw them from any Jidongqian Bank. Most importantly, I get 24% interest every year. Boss Ma said confidently. 24%? Everyone's expression changed. That's right. For example, if I deposit 100 spirit stones and withdraw them at any time, I'll be able to withdraw 124 spirit stones in just 1 year. That means that I can withdraw 2 spirit stones as interest every month. I can use them however I want. Do you know? I don't even earn that much in a year's business. Sometimes I even lose a lot. Now, as long as I deposit my spirit stones, I can withdraw them at any time. Isn't that great? Boss Ma said excitedly. Hiss. The onlookers gasped. Who doesn't have some spare cash? 24%? Really? A cultivator said immediately. No, why would he give us 24% interest? If he doesn't make money, why would he give us money? Another cultivator said in disbelief. The onlookers nodded at the cultivator's words. Boss Ma smiled and said, That's what I was about to say. He also has a way to make money. Oh. The onlookers looked at Boss Ma. Loans. As long as you provide the relevant information or mortgage the corresponding items, such as magical weapons, medicinal pills, secret books, divine weapons, materials, etc., you can borrow spirit stones from the East Money Bank. It means that if you're short of money, you can ask the East Money Bank. They will lend you money, but you have to pay some interest. The interest is the spirit stones earned by the East Money Bank. Boss Ma said confidently. Ah, interest? How much can it be? Someone said in disbelief. Ha, many a little makes a mickle, and many a little makes a mickle. There will always be people who are short of money. Once the loan becomes a habit, there will be an endless stream of people who will pay interest. Part of the interest will be distributed to us, and the other part will be earned by the East Money Bank. Boss Ma said with a smile. Ah, but I keep feeling that it's a little unreal. Everyone shook their heads in disbelief. Hi, everyone, I'll take my leave first. Boss Ma ignored the crowd and walked in. When Boss Ma entered the East Qian Bank, there were many others who entered the Qian Bank as well. He was officially saving money. Some rich people also entered with a trace of curiosity and saved a little. The audience watched the performance, and some of them looked at Qian Xing in disbelief. On the second floor of East Money Bank, Yen Chuan led everyone to watch the discussions below. Meow, Yen Chuan, these people don't believe you. Meow said curiously as it gnawed on the spirit stone. You don't believe me? This is just the beginning. 24% interest is something that even immortals would go crazy over. Yen Chuan said with a smile. Even immortals go crazy? Meow didn't understand. But with people's distrust, it's going to be hard to start. Mou, she said worriedly. Don't worry. After a month, the 24% interest is the greatest trust. This is just the beginning, Yen Chuan said with a smile. Your Majesty, you are nurturing the desire of the people in the first Kai city. Yifeng said with a smile. Desire is the devil. This is just the beginning. The best is yet to come, Yen Chuan said with a smile. No matter how deserted the front door was, the first East Qian Bank in the first Kai city bought half a street and opened a huge shop. In the first Kai city, this might just be a joke, a business that many people saw as a fool's shop. Everything started to change a month later. A month later, the fool's shop became even more foolish. That was because the first batch of people to save money had received interest. Heavy interest. An interest that made the hearts of the depositors beat wildly. Chapter 659. Opening of the City. A small restaurant. The interior of the restaurant wasn't big, and most of the customers were regulars. Although there wasn't much business, it was still stable. At this moment, a man in a green robe walked to the counter. Pa! The man in the green robe slammed a spiritual stone on the counter. Boss, today's drinks are on me, the man in the green robe said proudly. The moment the man in the green robe spoke, the restaurant went silent. Everyone looked at the man in the green robe. Zhang Xiao, it's you? You're rich? You're treating us? Zhang Xiao, you're treating us? Since when did the stingy Zhang Xiao become so generous? Everyone was familiar with the man in the green robe. Naturally, they recognized him at first glance, but they were more surprised. I said treat, so it's a treat. Boss, serve everyone. Zhang Xiao smiled. All right. The boss received the spiritual stone and was naturally overjoyed. Zhang Xiao also found a table and sat down confidently. Zhang Xiao, what's going on? Why are you so generous? Did you strike it rich? Yeah, Zhang Xiao, we meet every day, but I don't see you in any trouble. Yeah, what's going on? Everyone looked at Zhang Xiao curiously. Zhang Xiao drank a bowl of wine and said proudly, thank you for your care in the past. I, Zhang Xiao, have always remembered it in my heart. Recently, I did find a source of income and earn some money. I'm treating everyone to a drink. Ah, source of income? What source of income? Zhang Xiao, you have to think of your brother. If possible, give me some advice. Everyone's eyes lit up, including the restaurant boss. They all pricked up their ears. Actually, there's no harm in telling everyone. Because this source of income, I can't make it all by myself. Zhang Xiao smiled. Oh, everyone perked up. Do you still remember the Jidong money shop? Zhang Xiao smiled. Jidong money shop? That stupid shop? That Jidong money shop that rented half of the first city's most prosperous district? That Jidong money bank where there are so many people coming in and out every day? Everyone's memories were still fresh in their minds. After all, the busiest street, half a street, and new businesses. No one would forget it after hearing it once. That's right. It's the Jidong money shop. A month ago, I went in with Boss Ma to deposit money. I clenched my teeth and saved 100 mid-grade spirit stones. Zhang Xiao said, are you crazy? That's half of your wealth. Someone shouted. Yes, I thought I was crazy at that time, but this morning I found out how wise I was. It's been a month. According to reason, I should be able to withdraw some interest. I went to withdraw it. The East Qian Bank gave me 2 mid-grade spirit stones as interest. Zhang Xiao said, 2 mid-grade spirit stones? That's right. I worked hard for a month and could only earn 1. But I saved up money and did nothing. I earned 2. 2? Huh? Zhang Xiao said excitedly. That's not right. Zhang Xiao, you were cheated. You saved 100, but you only took back 2. Zhang Xiao smiled and said, Brother Wang, I know what you're thinking. I was also worried at that time, so I asked the Jidong money shop to take back all the spirit stones. Well then? Chapter 660. Then, Jidong Money Bank gave me back my spirit stones. 100 spirit stones, not a single one less. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. Really? They gave it to you just like that? Everyone was surprised. Of course, they gave it to me directly. I went out of Jidong Money Bank with 102 spirit stones. I was dumbfounded for a long time. Then I thought about it and realized that something was wrong. Why would I take them out? Wouldn't it make money every day if I put them in there? Zhang Xiao suddenly said. I went in immediately and saved them. In the future, I'll have 2 spirit stones every month. Isn't that great? Zhang Xiao said with a smile. In the small restaurant, everyone was silent, as if they were trying to figure out whether Zhang Xiao was right or not. Why would I lie to you? I thought I saved too little. Next door, Wang Sanma also saved 1,000 spirit stones. I thought he was crazy, but this morning he received the interest of 20 spirit stones. He's counting the money alone at home. No, after drinking, I'm going to his house to eat. Ha ha. Zhang Xiao said excitedly. After drinking, Zhang Xiao was about to go out excitedly. Boss, remember everyone's bill today is on me. After saying that, Zhang Xiao rushed out of the door. Everyone in the restaurant was left behind in silence. The interest of 24% was too high. Although some people suspected that Jidong Money Bank was fake, they still couldn't bear it. From the second month onwards, The number of people coming to Jidong Money Bank began to slowly increase. Although many people were still worried, the heavy spirit stones made many people jealous and showed a trace of greed. On the second floor of Jidong Money Bank, Yin Chuan led everyone to see the increasing number of customers. Your Majesty, 24% interest is too high, Yifeng said with a smile. 24% is more than high. It's crazy. That's why I said that even immortals would go crazy, Yin Chuan said with a smile. Meow. I just calculated. 24%. If it's more than 4 years, you'll have to pay them double the spirit stones, right? Won't you suffer a loss? Meow suddenly shouted. Huh, Meow also knows how to calculate? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Meow? You're losing money. For years later, you'll still have to pay for it. Meow yelled. Meow had signed a contract with Yin Chuan, so she was bound to follow Yin Chuan. Therefore, she had a share of Yin Chuan's spirit stones. She was worried that Yin Chuan would lose all the spirit stones that she wanted to eat. She hugged Meow and laughed. Who said anything about paying? That set of rules was just a lie. Did you really believe it? Their interest is actually their spirit stones, deducted from their own spirit stones. Meow. Meow was confused. It's like if they deposited 100 spirit stones, we take out 2 of them every month and return them to them, telling them that it's just interest. Actually, we don't need to spend a single spirit stone, she said with a smile. Meow. You don't need to spend a single spirit stone? Meow's eyes widened. But what if they don't save anymore? Meow suddenly shouted. At this time, who would be willing to not save? She said with a smile. Ah, yes, no one would be willing to. But 4 years later, what about 4 years later? For years later, all their money will be returned as interest. There won't be any more money for them. At that time, won't something happen? Meow was puzzled. Ha ha, for years? With them as role models, won't more people come to save? Yin Chuan said with a smile. Chapter 661. Meow's eyes kept blinking as if she thought of something. For years later, we can use other people's money to fill this hole? What are you afraid of? There is an endless stream of money coming in every day. As long as we have money, we can give interest. Using other people's money, we can return other people's money? She laughed. Meow. Meow finally understood. Her eyes lit up. There is no end to this, Yin Chuan. You are too smart. I want to eat spirit stones. I want to eat spirit stones. Meow shouted excitedly. The first month, the second month, the third month. As time passed, the interest earned by the cultivators increased, and the number of people saving also increased. Jidong Qin Bank was no longer a fool's shop, but a money tree in many people's eyes. As long as money was put in, money could make more money. As for Zhang Xiao'er, he invested all his money in it. Those cultivators who used to run around for spirit stones in the past now ate the best pills every day, used the best treasures, and their spirit stones increased continuously. This immediately stimulated more cultivators to go to Jidong Qin Bank. Of course, as they saved more money, they could not help but have some ideas about Jidong Qin Bank. But there was an array outside Jidong Qin Bank. As long as they touched the array slightly, thousands of cultivators would chase after them, making Jidong Qin Bank even more secure. Money, money, money. More and more people like this kind of life. Similarly, Jidong Qin Bank also started to lend money to cultivators who were short of money. Although the interest earned from the loans was very little, it was not important because Jidong Qin Bank had now gained a firm foothold in the first opening city. First opening city, City Lord's Mansion. An old man sat in the main hall of the City Lord's Mansion. He was a God Realm warrior from the Great Winged Heaven School. His name was Wang Qingshan. Wang Qingshan's face was clean. His hair was black, but the wrinkles on his face showed that his cultivation was not smooth. Wang Qingshan was reviewing a book of data. A group of men sat beside him, also calculating the data. Master, this year, we can't increase our tax revenue compared to last year. If we give the same tax revenue to the sect, they won't be able to give us any rewards after the sect evaluates us. We can't increase our spirit stones. A man sighed softly. Wang Qingshan frowned and said, "There's nothing we can do about it. There's only so much income from taxes and rent in the city. It's already the limit to maintain 100,000 high-tier spiritual stones a year. How could it increase again? If we add another 10,000 high-grade spirit stones, we will be rewarded by the sect. But where will the spirit stones come from?" The disciples sighed softly. "Master, good news, good news." Immediately, a man rushed into the main hall. "What is it? Why are you panicking?" Wang Qingshan said in a deep voice. "Master, a merchant association wants to meet you. They want to give us 50,000 high-grade spirit stones." "Master, do you want to meet them?" The disciple asked excitedly. 50,000? Where did the 50,000 come from? Wang Qingshan's spirits were instantly lifted. "They want to rent the land on Mount Bishui for 300 years. All the rent will be paid in one go. 50,000 high-grade spirit stones." The disciple said, "What? Who is it? Crazy? They want to rent that piece of land that no one wants for 300 years? 50,000 high-grade spirit stones?" A disciple said excitedly, "Yeah? 300 years at once? Will there be any problems?" Another disciple said. Wang Qingshan frowned and looked at the disciple. "I dare not hide it from you, master. The merchant association is called the #1 merchant association in the world." Not only did they promise to rent the land for 300 years and pay 50,000 high-grade spirit stones, they are also willing to give you 50,000 high-grade spirit stones as a personal bribe. The disciple said, 50,000 high-grade spirit stones. That was the income of the first half of the year. That was 5 million middle-grade spirit stones and 500 million low-grade spirit stones. 500 million low-grade spirit stones? That was bribery, but the amount of bribery was too terrifying. Not only Wang Qingshan, but the other disciples were breathing heavily at that moment. Crack! Wang Qingshan crushed the pen in his hand. "Take me to them!" Wang Qingshan shouted immediately. Chapter 662. A few months later, the city opened for business. It was still the same small restaurant. Ever since Zhang Xiao brought everyone to the East Money Bank to deposit money, everything had returned to normal. "Boss, 2 jugs of 6 Immortals wine? I'm so tired." A voice came from behind the counter. Zhang Xiao you haven't been here for a long time?" The innkeeper was surprised. Zhang Xiao found a place to sit down. "Yeah. Zhang Xiao where have you been recently?" "Zhang Xiao this wine is on me. Thanks to your guidance last time, all our money has been deposited in Jidong Money Bank. This brother has also collected interest. Jidong Money Bank is really a money tree." A burly man sat down with a smile. When the burly man spoke, everyone looked at Zhang Xiao gratefully. "Then congratulations, big brother Li, but I can't get any interest now. Instead, I have to pay Jidong Money Bank every month." Zhang Xiao smiled bitterly. "Ah? Why do you owe Jidong Money Bank money? Did Jidong Money Bank go back on their word? Did they take your money?" Big Brother Li glared at him. Not only Big Brother Li, but everyone's face changed. Everyone had money in Jidong Money Bank. If Jidong Money Bank didn't pay them, wouldn't they be in trouble? "No, Jidong Money Bank is still the same, but I took a loan from Jidong Money Bank." Zhang Xiao laughed. When Zhang Xiao said that, everyone sighed in relief. "Loan? How much did you take?" Big Brother Li was puzzled. 75 high-grade spirit stones. Zhang Xiao said proudly. "What? Are you kidding me?" Zhang Xiao's entire fortune, including all your treasures, and even if you sell your ancestral grave, you can only get 10 high-grade spirit stones. Is Jidong Money Bank stupid? Lend you 75 high-grade spirit stones? Aren't they afraid that you'll run away? Big Brother Li exclaimed. "Yeah, you only have so little money. If you donate it and run away, who can do anything about it?" Everyone shouted. "Who said I'm running away? This time, I'm not alone. My boss Zhang, took the loan with me. 75 high-grade spirit stones, plus interest, spread over 300 years. It's enough to pay back 100 high-grade spirit stones. 300 years, big brother, and I will pay it back slowly." Zhang Xiao laughed. 300 years? In total, you and your elder brother will each receive more than one mid-grade spirit stone every month. This pressure isn't small, Big Brother Li said. Fortunately, it's still within my acceptable range. Just kill a few more demonic beasts. Zhang Xiao said. Really? But why did you borrow so much money from Jidong Money Bank? Where's the money? Brother Li asked curiously. Zhang Xiao revealed a mysterious smile and said, Big Brother Li, let's test our palms. Well, what is it? It's only been half a month, and your cultivation has increased? Big Brother Li said in disbelief. Everyone watched curiously. Zhang Xiao and Big Brother Li's palms met, pushing each other hard. When the two palms touched, Big Brother Li realized that something was wrong. Boom! With a loud bang, the two palms separated. Thump, 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 thump. Brother Li took 7 to 8 steps back before he could stabilize himself. Zhang Xiao, on the other hand, remained motionless. How could this be? Old Li is at the 5th level of the profound realm, while Zhang Xiao is at the 4th level. Old Li can't be Zhang Xiao? Everyone looked at the two in surprise. How is this possible? Zhang Xiao, tell me what happened. Did your cultivation increase? Half a month ago, you were no match for me. Big Brother Li frowned. Chapter 663. I'm now at level 6 of the essence state. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. What? Half a month? 2 levels in a row? Did you eat an elixir? Brother Li exclaimed. To a cultivator, spirit stones were important, but there was one thing that was more important than money and spirit stones, and that was cultivation. The most important thing was to have a strong cultivation base. 2 levels in a row in half a month? His cultivation speed was simply too fast. Elixir? It's almost the same as an elixir. Besides, I can eat it for another 300 years, and my cultivation will continue to rise. Zhang Xiao said confidently. What's going on? Zhang Xiao, tell me, how did you increase your cultivation? Brother Li asked excitedly. That's why I borrowed 75 upper spiritual stones from the Jidong Bank. Zhang Xiao said with a smile. Oh! Everyone pricked up their ears. Do you know the number 1 house in the world? Zhang Xiao said with a smile. The number 1 house in the world? Is it the Chamber of Commerce that's crazy about money? Yeah, what kind of shabby house is that? I can build it in 2 days, and it costs only 2 medium spiritual stones. They're crazy, and they're selling it for 100 upper spiritual stones? The number 1 house in the world? What a joke. Which idiot would buy his house? Although my house is not a cave abode, it's much better than his. They're crazy about money. Zhang Xiao suddenly spoke while everyone was criticizing him. I bought it there. The restaurant fell silent, and everyone looked at Zhang Xiao in disbelief. You spent 100 upper spiritual stones, which is equivalent to 10,000 medium spiritual stones, to buy a house that's only worth 2 medium spiritual stones? Brother Li was stunned. Yeah. Why else would I borrow money from the Jidong Bank? Zhang Xiao said. Brother Li, the manager, everyone in the restaurant. Zhang Xiao, are you kidding? Why did you buy that shabby house? Just ask me, and I'll build you a house 10 times better than his. Brother Li exclaimed. Zhang Xiao drank his wine and shook his head. Big Brother Li, it's not like that. You don't know. That house isn't worth much, but there's a huge array there, the myriad spirits array. The heaven and earth yuan qi inside is 10 times denser than outside. 10 times the yuan qi of heaven and earth. Everyone's expression changed. That's right, 10 times. Even the great winged heaven school and the sect leaders' hall are not as rich as this. I can live here for 300 years. After 300 years, no matter how lazy I am, I will at least reach the divine realm. If I work harder, I might even reach the virtual realm. Zhang Xiao said with certainty. After Zhang Xiao finished speaking, almost everyone's heart thumped wildly. Emptiness realm? Perhaps in the eyes of many, that was an unattainable height. Even the immortal state was extremely illusory. However, if what Zhang Xiao said was true, 10 times the yuan qi of heaven and earth was no longer illusory, It was absolutely possible. Absolutely possible. To a cultivator, cultivation was always the most important thing, even if it meant going bankrupt. Because once one's cultivation reached a certain level, they would have everything. How did Jidong Qianheng agree to lend you 75 top-grade spirit stones? Brotherly looked at Zhang Xiaober. Everyone knows the rules of Jidong Qianheng. You have to apply for a loan first. I applied for it and gave you the reason. At first, I asked for a loan of 100 top-grade spirit stones, but Jidong Qianheng refused. They said that I could get a loan from the best house in the world, but I had to gather 25 top-grade spirit stones first. Only then could I get a loan of 75 top-grade spirit stones. I thought about it, gritted my teeth, called my boss, sold all my belongings, and borrowed some from my friends and relatives. Finally, I got the money. Jidong Qianheng successfully got the loan and supervised my purchase of the house to prevent me from using it for other purposes. Zhang Xiaoler thought about it and said, Chapter 664. Is Jidong Qianbang stupid? Isn't he afraid that he won't get his money back? Isn't he afraid that he won't repay the loan? Someone said, what's there to be afraid of? It's written in the contract that if I don't repay the loan, Jidong Qianbang will take back the house and sell it to someone else. Zhang Xiaoler said angrily. Then aren't you penniless now? Brotherly smiled bitterly. Yes, Boss Zhang and I bought the house together. Every month, we will each cultivate for half a month. We will work hard to earn money and repay the loan, Zhang Xiaoler said with a smile. But won't you suffer? Brotherly asked worriedly. Zhang Xiaoler smiled and said, in half a month, I advance by 2 stages. In 1 or 2 years, I will definitely reach the Qi state. By then, I will earn even more. It will only be hard for the next 2 years. But for the future, I am willing to suffer. Yeah, I suffered even more when I was immortal. Now I have a bright future ahead of me. Tell me, Zhang Xiaoler, how did you do it? Is the yuan qi of heaven and earth really 10 times stronger? Everyone looked at Zhang Xiaoler excitedly. In the first open city, there was a forest. There was a huge valley. At the entrance of the valley, there was a huge sign that said, the best house under heaven. The entire valley was golden. Spiritual qi gathered in all directions to form 5,000 small vortexes. Each of the vortexes corresponded to a luxurious house. Among the 5,000 houses, there was a large hall in the north. Yen Chuan led everyone to look at the empty and desolate valley. The yuan qi of heaven and earth is so dense. What kind of array is this? Mou Shi frowned and asked. This is the 1,000-spirit array. It's not that complicated. Anyone who has studied arrays can set it up in a short period of time. It's just that this array consumes too much energy, and no one can afford it. Yen Chuan said with a smile. How many spiritual stones does this valley cost? Mou Shi asked curiously. It consumes 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones every month. Yen Chuan said confidently. 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones every month? Mou Shi asked in surprise. That means we'll lose 10 million low-grade spirit stones in a month? More than 100 million a year? Miao exclaimed. If that's the case, then you're not making any money at all. A house costs 100 upper-grade spirit stones, and you only need to pay 25 upper-grade spirit stones for the down payment. Even if you sell the house for 5,000 upper-grade spirit stones, you'll only get 125,000 upper-grade spirit stones. However, you gave the city lord's mansion 100,000 spiritual stones. Every year, it will cost you more than 10,000 spiritual stones. At most, it will last for 3 years. After 3 years, you will have to pay for it. Besides, can you sell 5,000 houses? Mou Shi asked worriedly. Your calculations are not bad. However, I don't expect the number 1 lodging under the heavens to make money. I have the Jidong Money Bank to make money. What if the number 1 lodging under the heavens can make money? Then there would be many people following the trend. I built the number 1 dorm under the heavens just to kidnap the city lord's mansion. Yen Chuan smiled. Ah, Mou Shi didn't understand. Besides, These houses will be the source of the unrest in the first open city. Just wait. I will turn these houses into demons and turn the first open city upside down. Yin Chuan said confidently. Kidnap the city lord's mansion? Mo Yushi frowned. Miss Mo, that day, I put on a wig and went to the city lord's mansion. I knocked the city lord unconscious with 500 million low-grade spiritual stones. I then bribed him with 500 million low-grade spiritual stones. Everyone in the city lord's mansion treated me like a second parent and treated me with utmost care. I asked them to help me advertise. Everyone patted their chests and promised me. He sent me out respectfully. Lu Gang said with a smile. Bribe 500 million? How bold! Mo Yushi smiled bitterly. 500 million low-grade spiritual stones? That was too much. That's not all. I also promised that if this batch of houses sold well, my #1 dorm under the heavens would continue to build more. In the future, every batch would be of the same standard as this one. I remember that when I left, everyone in the mansion was trembling. Lu Gang smiled. Of course they were trembling. You bribed them with 500 million in one go. How many more times? Just thinking about it made their nerves jump. They were ecstatic. I understand now. You used the utmost East Money Bank to kidnap the people. You used the #1 dorm under the heavens to kidnap the city lord's mansion. You're preparing to kidnap the entire first open city? Mo Yushi's eyes lit up. Chapter 665. A year passed in the blink of an eye. Lu Gang put on a wig and disguised himself as he arrived at the Castellan Manor once again. Congratulations, Castellan Wong. I heard that Castellan Wong's governance last year was exemplary, and you were rewarded with a large number of treasures by the Great Winged Heaven School. Lu Gang said with a smile. Castellan Wong Qingshan was overjoyed. Quick, prepare some good tea for Mr. Lu. Bring the top-grade Immortal Ganoderma over and brew it for Mr. Lu. Wang Qingshan said to a disciple beside him. Yes. The disciple beside him quickly fetched the tea. Haha, Mr. Lu is too courteous. It's all thanks to your #1 lodging house. Without it, how could I be rewarded by the sect? Wang Qingshan said politely. Sipping the top-grade Immortal Ganoderma tea, Lu Gang laughed. Haha, Castellan Wong is too humble. With Castellan Wong's promise, the rich families in the city are willing to buy our houses. 5,000 houses will be sold out as soon as possible. This was Yin Chuan borrowing the Castellan Manor's reputation. After all, no one could guarantee that 300 years would not change. Everyone knew how to calculate. However, the Castellan Manor represented the Great Winged Heaven School, and the Great Winged Heaven School had already advertised it. How could it be fake? Could it be that the Great Winged Heaven School couldn't even last 300 years? What a joke! After enjoying the benefits of the #1 lodging house, and with the promise of 300 years, more and more people bought their houses. As for the city lord, Wang Qingshan, he was not a fool. He calculated everything and found that this batch of houses had been sold for 125,000. 100,000 upper spiritual stones were handed over to him and went into his pocket. The rest would naturally be earned by the #1 hostel in the world and the East Money Bank. He couldn't push too hard. The #1 lodging house is indeed worthy of its name. The Yuan Qi there is not inferior to my sect leader's palace. You might not know, but 2 of my disciples from the Great Winged Heaven School bought houses there. Sometimes even I wish I could have one. Castellan Wong said with a smile. Lu Gang didn't reply. Instead, he smiled faintly and said, the first batch is full. Therefore, the #1 lodging house would like to open up another piece of land. What is Castellan Wong's opinion? Oh. The teacup in Wang Qingshan's hand trembled slightly, and the tea almost spilled out. The same rules as last time, 500 million low-grade spirit stones for a 300-year rental, and 500 million low-grade spirit stones for City Lord Wang to take care of his people. How about that? Lu Gang said with a smile. Wang Qingshan's heart thumped wildly again. Ha ha ha. The world's #1 lodging house is indeed worthy of its reputation. All right, just tell me which piece of land you fancy. There'll definitely be no problem. Wang Qingshan immediately guaranteed. I naturally believe in City Lord Wang. However, there is something that I must remind City Lord Wang. Lu Gang said solemnly. Oh? The number one under heaven dormitory is happy to work with City Lord Wang. We hope to continue working with City Lord Wang. Lu Gang said sincerely. Of course, Wang Qingshan said affirmatively. 500 million low-grade spirit stones at once? This seat, Wang Qingshan naturally would not give it away. City Lord Wang, I think that once the news of our cooperation reaches the Great Winged Heaven School, many people will be jealous. Of course, maybe I'm thinking too much, Lu Gang said. As soon as Lu Gang said this, Wang Qingshan shuddered. That's right, 500 million low-grade spirit stones. 500 million in half a year? Who wouldn't be jealous? There were many disciples in the Great Winged Heaven School, but they weren't as close as brothers. What I mean is that City Lord Wang should be closer to your master. These spirit stones are endless. No matter how good the sales are this time, 2 months later, I might have to trouble you again. If the sales are good this year, it's normal for me to come here 10 times to discuss the contract. Lu Gang said with a smile. Chapter 666. 10 times? 5 billion low-grade spiritual stones? Pouring money into his own pocket, Wang Qingshan was a little out of breath. At the same time, he realized that he couldn't take the money alone. Not to mention the Immortal State warriors. Even the virtual realm warriors would be jealous. Thank you, Mr. Lu. I will inform my master and ask him to suppress the evildoers. Wang Qingshan said respectfully. Haha. City Lord Wang is a wise man. This is only 1 year. We will do this every year. We will build a prosperous city, Lu Gang said with a smile. Ah, that's right. Wang Qingshan laughed. While the two were talking, there was a sudden noise outside the hall. Let me in. Let me in. I want to see the city lord. He is my martial uncle. The noise outside the hall was loud. Wang Qingshan frowned when he heard the noise outside. Mr. Lu, I'm sorry. I need to go out for a while. Wang Qingshan said. Okay. Lu Gang nodded. Wang Qingshan soon walked out of the hall. A group of his disciples was blocking 3 or 4 people. Martial uncle, it's me. A man in red said with a smile. What's the matter? Wang Qingshan frowned. I want to buy land. I want to build a house and sell it. I have cracked the array of the best house in the world. Martial uncle, please help me. The man in red said. You want to build the best house in the world too? Wang Qingshan frowned. Yes. How long are you going to rent it for? Wang Qingshan frowned. Rent? This is the land of the Great Winged Heaven School. I can just borrow it. It is not worth much. Of course, I will give Martial Uncle 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones for everything. Of course, after the house is sold, the man in red said. Wang Qingshan's face twitched. 1,000 high-grade spiritual stones? That was 10 million low-grade spiritual stones. Wang Qingshan might have turned a blind eye to it before the building of the best house in the world. But now, the best house in the world could bring in 10 billion low-grade spiritual stones for the sect in the next year. 5 billion low-grade spiritual stones would go to him. Every time, he would give the money first and take the land later. The best house in the world was so honest. But look at Martial Uncle in front of him. 10 million high-grade spiritual stones? This was not even enough to fill the gaps between his teeth. What's more, he was just making empty promises. He would pay after the house was sold. Most importantly, they had disrupted the business of the world's #1 dormitory. What if they stopped investing? Martial Uncle, 1,000 upper-grade spirit stones is quite a lot, the red-clothed man said. Wang Qingshan's face twitched. Ridiculous. I'm in charge of the first gate city. How can I allow you to mess around? If you want to mess around in the first gate city, get the sect master's personal order first. Martial Uncle, the red-clothed man frowned. Go back and cultivate properly. Don't look for trouble. Wang Qingshan frowned and lectured. What's so great about that? I'll go tell my master and let him fight for the position of city lord. The red-robed man turned around and left. Seeing the red-clothed man leave, Wang Qingshan immediately panicked. Lu Gang sat in the main hall and heard everything. Naturally, he understood that the benefits were too great, and no one could avoid it. After another half a day, Wang Qingshan sent Lu Gang away with a deep frown on his face. "Master, what do we do now?" a disciple asked worriedly. This was because there was a large amount of spirit stones to be distributed at this location. "No, I'll go look for my master." Wang Qingshan took a deep breath and said, "Martial uncle, isn't he in seclusion?" "Seclusion? He has to come out even if he's in seclusion." Wang Qingshan's eyes were red with determination. Chapter 667. Ever since Zhang Xiao bought the #1 house in the world, his cultivation had improved by leaps and bounds. He was now at the 9th level of the refined realm despite the fact that he had to work very hard to repay the loan. Half a month later, it was Boss Zhang's turn to cultivate. Zhang Xiao also came out to make money to repay the loan. Zhang Xiao was in a good mood after reaching LV9 of the Essence Realm. However, the door of the restaurant was closed. "Huh? Why is it closed?" Zhang Xiao looked at the closed door in surprise. "Zhang Xiao, have you finished cultivating?" Suddenly, a voice came from beside him. It was Brother Li. "Ah, it's Brother Li. I have reached LV9 of the Essence Realm. But what happened to the restaurant? Why is it closed?" Zhang Xiao said with a smile. "Are you talking about the shopkeeper? He also bought a house for 25 upper spiritual stones." "Ha, but it's worth it. He bought the shop and entered the best house in the world." Brother Li said with a smile. "Ah, many shops have closed on my way here." Zhang Xiao said with a worried tone. "Isn't it because of the price of the best house in the world? All the money has gone to the best house in the world. They can't open any more. Do you think those shops have no cost?" Brother Li said. "Ah, so many shops in the premier city are going to close?" Zhang Xiao said. "Well, maybe. But it doesn't matter to the governor, because the rent of the best house in the world is more than the tax of all the shops combined." Brother Li said with certainty. "The governor naturally supports the best house in the world. But it's hard for us." Zhang Xiao said with a wry smile. "Who said it isn't? I used to be an alchemist. I could help them refine pills, and they would give me a certain amount of spiritual stones as compensation. But now, there are fewer and fewer shops. It's getting harder and harder to earn spiritual stones as compensation." Brother Li said with a wry smile. "Other industries are getting harder and harder. It's not that hard. Anyway, it's not as prosperous as before." Brother Li said with a wry smile. "Forget it. Let's go outside the city to hunt some demonic beasts and sell them in the city." Zhang Xiao said. "Okay, but there are fewer shops now. There are many people like us who hunt demonic beasts and sell them. The price of demonic beasts will be cheaper in the future." Brother Li said with a wry smile. "Yes, it's getting harder and harder to repay the loan. Let's go." The two of them left the city together. First opening of the city, to the 2nd floor of East Qian Bank. Yin Chuan looked at Yifeng and said, "It's about time. The best merchant house to the east and the best merchant house under the heavens have already established themselves in Kaifeng City. Now they're starting to spread to the other 100 cities. I want all 100 cities to have the best merchant house under the heavens." "Yes, this subject has already made the arrangements. As soon as your majesty gives the order, we will immediately sweep through the 100 cities of the Great Winged Heaven School," Yifeng said with a smile. Yin Chuan nodded. "However, your majesty, when will that plan begin?" Yifeng asked curiously. "Then let's wait for the East Money Bank and the #1 Under Heaven House to gain a firm foothold in the 100 cities. Once that plan was executed, the entire city would be destroyed in an instant. If it was executed too early, it would be easy to be exposed. Once the foundations of the 100 cities were stabilized, they would execute the plan at the same time, causing the 100 cities to collapse at the same time. At that time, it will be the collapse of the first round," Yin Chuan said with certainty. Yes. Another year passed. City Lord's Mansion. Wang Qingshan frowned as he looked at the new annual income. "City Lord, this year, the taxes and rent from all walks of life are only 40,000 high-grade spirit stones. It's less than half of the previous year. A disciple frowned. In the past, the annual income of a city was 100,000 high-grade spirit stones. Although the income of all walks of life was reduced by more than half, the best merchant house under the heavens has 500,000 high-grade spirit stones to buy land. The amount we hand in to the Great Winged Heaven School is 5 or 6 times more than before. Another person said, "Yes, it's enough to have the best merchant house under the heavens. Why do you care so much?" Wang Qingshan's frown slowly eased. Yes, he had created 5 times the benefits for the sect. Also, this year, he also had 5 billion low-grade spirit stones in his personal pocket. 5 billion. Although most of it was given to his master to manage everything, he still had a lot of surplus after all. Thinking of this, Wang Qingshan smiled. Those poor people in other industries, let them die. Chapter 668. First city opening, East Money Bank, 2nd floor. Yin Chuan was sitting at a desk, drinking tea while listening to Yi Feng's report. Miao was lying lazily on Mo Yushi's lap, nibbling on spirit stones. Someone? Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows in confusion. That's right, Your Majesty. The construction of the 100 cities went smoothly in the beginning. Whether it was the East Money Bank or the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company, everything went smoothly. When the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company expanded again, one of the cities was blocked. Yifeng said solemnly. "Oh, who was it?" Yin Chuan asked curiously. "That was the city lord of Blue Sky City, called Enrich. Yifeng said solemnly. Hention? Hention? How much injustice did he have to endure to be able to come up with such a name?" Yin Chuan laughed. Your Majesty is considerate, and I did not think too much about the name at first. Perhaps the person who came up with this name has some story behind it. Yifeng smiled. What's wrong with this Hention? Yin Chuan asked as he sipped his tea. Perhaps he saw something and did not allow the expansion of the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company. In Blue Sky City, he is the city lord, and there are restrictions there. Yifeng said solemnly. He saw it? Yin Chuan raised his eyebrows. Perhaps. He kept saying that the number 1 Under Heaven Lodging Company and the East Money Bank were colluding with each other and had bad intentions. He kept emphasizing that if this continued, the city would be destroyed. Yifeng said solemnly. Oh. The people of the East Money Bank spent a lot of money to buy this information. That Hention also emphasized to the people around him that this was a conspiracy against the Great Winged Heaven School. Yifeng took a deep breath. Where did this Hention come from? People from the Great Winged Heaven School? Yin Chuan asked curiously. He was picked up by Shi Wuya, a lower void stage expert from the Great Winged Heaven School. Rumor has it that when Shi Wuya saw Hention was already on the verge of death. Shi Wuya helped Hention, and Hention woke up. Hention wanted to repay Shi Wuya, so he stayed in Blue Sky City. Hention had outstanding ability as well. Blue Sky City, a city that was originally at the bottom of the economic ladder, became the city with the highest tax revenue after 3 years under Hention's control. Yifeng sighed in admiration. Oh! Yin Chuan's eyes lit up. Your Majesty's plan to collapse this time cannot fail. I have already made the decision and ordered everyone to persuade the city lords to quickly send slanderous words to the Great Winged Heaven School, so that Hention can quickly disappear from the vicinity of the Great Winged Heaven School. He will have no one to complain to. Yifeng said. Well done. Yin Chuan nodded. Yes, Hention has been chased out of the Great Winged Heaven School. If there is a chance, bring him to see me. Yin Chuan took a deep breath and said, Yes. Lu Gang went to the city lord's mansion because of this matter, right? Yin Chuan asked. Yes. Shi Wuya, who saved Hention, is the master of the city lord of our city. Yifeng said with certainty. Good. Yin Chuan nodded. First to open the city lord's mansion. City Lord Wang. I originally came here to rent another piece of land. However, it's difficult now. Someone is slandering us and wants to get rid of the number 1 Under Heaven School. I'm afraid I won't have another chance in the future. Lu Gang said bitterly. What? What do you mean? Someone stopped you? Wang Qingshan's expression changed. Chapter 669. In the past year, billions of low-grade spirit stones had gone through his personal pockets, causing Wang Qingshan to be completely lost in the spirit stones. A few billion a year, not to mention himself, would be enough for a few generations. Moreover, it was increasing every year. Now someone was blocking his path to wealth. Wang Qingshan was instantly enraged. Yes, our number one hostel in the world is opened in hundreds of cities, and we have to rely on the city lords. However, someone is planning to go to the Great Winged Heaven School and say that he wants to completely ban us. Sigh. Lu Gang said bitterly. Mr. Lu, who is it? Who is it? How dare he? Wang Qingshan shouted. The city lord of Blue Sky City, Enrich. Lu Gang said. It's him? The kid that Master picked up? Bastard. This person wants to go to the Great Winged Heaven School to complain. I must destroy him. Wang Qingshan glared. No. City Lord Wang, don't make a big deal out of this. Otherwise, it will go to the sect master of the Great Winged Heaven School. Lu Gang said. Yes, Mr. Lu is thoughtful. Don't worry. Leave this matter to me. With us around, the number one hostel in the world will always be unimpeded. Wang Qingshan said firmly. Okay, then I'll wait for your good news. At the same time, let's finalize the next batch of cooperation? Lu Gang said with a smile. Ha, good. Blue Sky City, City Lord's Mansion. Outside the main hall of the City Lord's Mansion, nearly 1,000 cultivators stood there, looking coldly at a man in a green robe at the entrance of the hall. The green-robed man had a head of long green hair. His forehead was shaped like a crescent, and his skin was sickly white. He had a small mustache, which added to his mature charm. However, at this moment, he was looking up at the sky with a look of unwillingness. Enrich, did you hear what we said? If you don't get lost, we'll smash you into pieces now. If the people of the number one hostel in the world did not plead for you, you would be dead by now. You want to go to the Great Winged Heaven School? Dream on. With us around, don't even think about it. The crowd forced the green-haired man, Enrich. Enrich revealed a bitter expression. I only said a few words about banning the number one dormitory under the heavens, but who would have thought that all of you would know about it? Ha! City lords of 100 cities. Just for me alone, all the city lords of your cities actually came? Ha! All of you are rotten. All of you are rotten. The world's number one dormitory? What a great number one dormitory under the heavens. Their movements are too fast. Can't you see? This is a scam targeted at the Great Winged Heaven School. This is an attempt to destroy the Great Winged Heaven School. Enrich smiled bitterly. You're just trying to scare us. Now, get out of the Great Winged Heaven School's territory. We'll send people to watch over you. If you dare to resist, we'll kill you at any time. The group of city lords said coldly. Enrich shook his head, not saying a word. It was as though he was waiting. At this moment, the city lord of the first open city, Wang Qingshan, flew over. Fellow Taoist Wang. Enrich looked at Wang Qingshan. It was as though he was waiting for Wang Qingshan. Wang Qingshan landed and stood beside the city lords. He threw a green jade pendant to Enrich. Smack! Enrich caught it. This is? Enrich's expression changed. Enrich, I've already reported this to Master. Master said that you don't need to keep your promise back then. Take your jade pendant and leave. From now on, you have nothing to do with the Great Winged Heaven School. Also, you're not allowed to take a step into the Great Winged Heaven School. You have nothing to do with the Great Winged Heaven School anymore. All grudges are settled. Wang Qingshan shouted. Ha ha! Enrich suddenly burst into laughter. His laughter was mixed with too much sadness and bitterness. To think that the dignified En family would be reduced to such a state. The green jade pendant that shook the world was actually abandoned by someone? Ha ha! Enrich laughed bitterly. Enrich, are you going to leave or not? Wang Qingshan said coldly. The city lords all looked coldly at Enhention. Looking at the group of city lords who were about to go crazy, Enhention let out a maniacal laugh and said, "Fine, I'm only staying in the Great Feather Heavenly Sect to repay Shi Wuya's kindness back then. All these years, I've already helped him a lot. Since he said that we're even, then so be it. What does the life and death of the Great Feather Heavenly Sect have to do with me? What does it have to do with me?" With a flick of his sleeves, Enhention stepped into the sky and flew towards the west. Follow him and escort him out of the Great Winged Heaven School. Don't make any mistakes, Wang Qingshan shouted to the disciples. Yes. Many people nodded. Ridiculous, ridiculous. Enhention seemed to despise these people. He flew towards the west and did not look back. En family? Shaking the world? Tui, this old man is familiar with history. I've never heard of any powerful En family in this world. A city lord sneered. Bullshit green jade pendant Tui. Oomph. The city lords all snorted in disdain. First opening of the city, Jidong Money Bank, second floor. Your Majesty, Enhention has been chased out of Blue Sky City. He's heading towards the west. I don't know where he is now. Lu Gang explained the events of that day with a smile. Oh, En family? Yin Chuan frowned. He had never heard of this name before. I've already sent people to look for this person. However, there's no news of him. It's difficult to find him again. Yifeng sighed slightly. Gold will always shine. Just keep an eye on this person in the future. Yin Chuan nodded. Yes, but something interesting happened this morning, Yifeng said with a smile. Oh, Your Majesty, you don't know. Today, a city lord deposited 100 million low-grade spiritual stones into our Jidong Money Bank. Yifeng smiled. Really? Yin Chuan immediately laughed. Yes, the money that we bribed them actually flowed back. The city lord is going to earn interest from the Jidong Money Bank. Ha ha ha. Yifeng laughed. Did the city lord hit his head? The money that we bribed was returned to us? Lu Gang was also shocked. That's right. This morning, I was also shocked by the news. Jidong Money Bank. Hi, Your Majesty is wise. Yifeng smiled. Yin Chuan smiled slightly and said, Well, that's a good thing. However, Enhention's matter can't be ignored. Since one person saw the clues, perhaps others will see the clues next. Yes, we'll definitely pay attention, Yifeng said with a solemn face. It's useless to pay attention. We have to be quick. We have to spread the best under Heaven House as soon as possible. After that, we'll carry out the plan and let the people of the 100 cities go crazy. Yin Chuan said affirmatively. Yes. The two of them immediately responded. Chapter 670. Opening of the first city, Castellan Manor. In the main hall of the Castellan Manor, Wang Qingshan sipped on a cup of tea with a satisfied expression. Master, you have to check the tax revenue every year. Do you still want to do it this year? A disciple asked. No need. Just let me know once you've verified it. Wang Qingshan said nonchalantly. Yes. Master, I've done the calculations. This year, the tax revenue from the first city is only 20,000 high-grade spirit stones. It's only 1/5 of the previous year. A disciple said worriedly. Only 20,000? Heh, 20,000 it is. I don't care about those businesses at all. I have a #1 hotel under the heavens. This year, it's another 500,000 high-grade spirit stones. Wang Qingshan said nonchalantly. Wang Qingshan didn't know that the #1 hotel under the heavens had overdrawn the profits of the first city to pay such a high share. Of course, even if Wang Qingshan knew, he wouldn't pursue the matter because the 500,000 high-grade spirit stones would go into his own pocket. Master is wise. I heard from Mr. Liu that next year, the tax revenue might increase even more. It might even be a few times higher than this year, or even 10 times higher, a disciple said excitedly. The teacup in Wang Qingshan's hand trembled slightly as the tea swirled around. It was obvious that he was immersed in Lu Gang's words. Next year? Next year's tax revenue would be 10 times higher than this year's? Wang Qingshan's throat moved. His eyes shone brightly. Master, someone came to visit today and said bad things about the #1 hotel under the heavens. They said, one of the disciples frowned. Arrest them. Arrest them all. Is this something a human would say? Wang Qingshan glared. Yes, I've already imprisoned them. Who do they think they are? The first city belongs to the Great Winged Heaven School. What do they know? Wang Qingshan snorted coldly. Yes, this kind of person deserves to die. Wang Qingshan said coldly. Yes. The first city, East Money Bank, 2nd floor. Yin Chuan stood on the 2nd floor and looked down with a solemn expression. Your Majesty, it's been almost 3 years. Our plan has been completed. 100 cities, the #1 hotel under the heavens, and the East Bank have all been established. We're just waiting for your orders. Yifeng said solemnly. It's time. Let's begin. Yin Chuan said coldly. Yes. Yifeng replied solemnly. Zhang Xiao Air carried a demonic beast and stopped at the entrance of a restaurant. It had been 3 years, and Zhang Xiao had broken through from LV4 to LV10. He was now close to breaking through to the Qi state. It had only been 3 years. In the past, Zhang Xiao would have cried out in excitement. However, recently, Zhang Xiao was not excited in the slightest. Instead, he had a worried expression on his face, and a lot of his long black hair had fallen off. Sigh. Zhang Xiao sighed. At this moment, a man walked out of the restaurant. Shopkeeper Wang, this is a 7-horned beast. I spent a lot of effort to catch it. Take a look. Zhang Xiao said hopefully. Not bad. 7-horned beast. 10 low-grade spirit stones. Shopkeeper Wang nodded. What? 10 low-grade spirit stones? Weren't there 100 of them before? Why are there 10 now? Zhang Xiao exclaimed. Shopkeeper Wang looked at Zhang Xiao and smiled bitterly. Zhang Xiao, you're a regular here. How many people do we have now? Thought you're tuning into the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.